Morning. Just adjust this thing here. Right. Denise Bramble, morning. Daniela Williams, morning to you. Morning, Roxanne. Michelle Robinson, morning. Thank you for my brooms, Roxanne. I still don't have your song, but don't worry. In due course. In due course. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Margaret Thomas, morning. Leon Graves, morning to you. Rude Shrewd. Rookman Gangadine, morning, Rookman. Alberta Sampath, Ayana Trim, morning. Althea, morning. Arlene Lewis, Sunday greetings to you as well. Morning, Gilan. See what else we have there. So, Maureen Washington Smith, morning, Maureen. Althea says news source have no complaint when she is the leak. Correct, very correct. Natalie F, morning. Ruth Shrewd, J Dimple 66. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning, Pauline. Annette Beard, morning, Annette. Christopher Coffey, morning to you. Terence Big Trini Cummings, morning, sir. Winston Jones, morning. Claire Carrington. Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning to you. Marge France, morning. Macaroni Tony, morning, sir. Earl Turpin, Donna Walcott, morning to all of you guys. Glenn Richardson, Neil Francois, always pleasant, morning, sir. Juju Bernard, Emerson Brown, Felix Hospitalis, morning to all of you. Adaremi X, Julia Matthew, Judy Collins, Niabo E, Christopher Sylvester, David Clark, morning. On Facebook, morning, Diane. Gemma White Isaac, morning. Gemma Joyce Neves, morning to you. Ruth Fronton, morning. Adriana Alexis, morning. Florence Bazzi, morning, Florence. Pamela David, Sarah Richards, morning to you guys. Sachelle Lambert, morning. Anne-Marie Billy, morning, Anne-Marie. Donna Andal de Jocelyn, morning. Morning, Istra. Carol, morning to you on this sunny Sunday morning. Nadia Lewis Dixon, morning. Angela Richards, Gloria Lazari Green. Stephen Martel, morning, sir. Sandra Watson, Joycelyn Smallwhite. Phyllis Antoine Osei Laria, is it? Angela Richards, Ashton Clark, Denise Cummings, morning, Denise. Christopher Serrett, Alison Boyce, morning. Theophilus Lockheed, morning to you. Deep Pierre. Let me say belated birthday greetings one time to Ian Glowden. Ian celebrated his birthday last week. I think it might have been Thursday or something. So sometime last week. So belated greetings to you, sir. Pamela O'Connor. Are you out there? Leon Joseph. Leon, what is the weather like in Choco? Today, well, from on my side, today feeling like river weather. Dexter James, morning, sir. Charles Jack, morning to all of you guys. I was trying to find a news clip. I thought I had saved it, but apparently it was something else. Right, so let me jump one time into some headlines here in today's newspaper. Carnival defies SOE. Mass ban selling out despite crime threat and emergency regulations. Band leaders see more players despite SOE fears. We see here. Carnival mass band say they are looking forward to an exciting 2025 season as player registrations have exceeded their expectations. Ayana Kalicharan, a band leader of one of the largest bands in San Fernando, Kalicharan Mass Limited, told the Sunday Express that registrations have exceeded their expectations even with an extension of the state of emergency in the country. We don't have any concerns because we are actually getting a lot of foreigners. So for us, the SOE is not a deterrent. In fact, we have a lot more people interested in registering who never played mass before. Things are looking good. So we anticipate a good turnout. As citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, crime will actually always be a concern. So we have to take the necessary precautions. And crime is nothing new. It has been happening for quite a number of years. However, we have extra security in place for the safety of our masqueraders, Kalicharan said. Spokesperson for Tribe Carnival, which includes several mass bands under its banner, Bliss, Lost Tribe, Hearts, Rogue, the band Pure, said this carnival is expected to be another successful season. Everything is in place for a successful season. The Sunday Express spoke with several other mass practitioners and band leaders who said their bands were sold out and there were no major concerns. Let me repeat that. The Sunday Express spoke with several other mass practitioners and band leaders who said their bands were sold out. We're in January. The 42nd of January hasn't arrived yet. You know, January, when you get paid early, well, for those who get paid early in December, and then you have to make that salary stretch until the 42nd of January. Yeah, but bands are sold out. All-inclusive fetes have already started and are being well patronized. In fact, I saw another article that said this carnival season is going to be one of the more active ones, where they expect to have over 400 fetes. 400 fetes. One band leader who did not want to be identified said, "We have no concerns about this year's carnival. We are moving ahead and things are looking good. We are almost sold out. We have always put our customer safety first." Other band leaders echoed similar sentiments. Meanwhile, the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association has projected a significant increase in events this season. According to the TTPA advocate Paige De Leon, between 300 and 400 events are scheduled, marking a rise from last year's numbers. So more fetes this year than last year. Longer carnival season, but we're suffering. We have no money. We're working on 2013 salary. Okay, no problem with how people spend the money. Let me just say that. No problems. I just find it interesting that mass bands are sold out so early. De Leon, who spoke on Wednesday at the TTPA's Global Carnival Alliance Queen's Hall, St. Anne said the SOE was not affecting carnival festivities. We are not oblivious to the fact that there is the perception that Trinidad and Tobago is an unsafe place. We all live here. We know what the realities are, but we do have to continue with our lives and not continue doing what we need to do, because the authorities would have indicated the economic activities of the country cannot halt. Right. So let me see here. Right. Interesting headlines there. So Carnival is around, so we're not concerned about the crime situation and all of that. For the rest of the year, we're concerned, but we're not concerned now. Right? For the next 2 months, we will not be concerned about crime. We're not afraid to leave our homes in the night for the next 2 months. We're not afraid of being robbed. We're not afraid of home invasions and stuff for the next 2 months. All right, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. So to all these band leaders, somebody need to send that article to Philip Edward Alexander, because I see he put up a post on his Facebook page talking nonsense about, in response to an article with Gypsy, where he was saying that the budget for this year's carnival is $140 million. And of course, Mr. Alexander did a lie, well, not a lie, put up a post talking about Mardi Gras in New Orleans makes a profit, and Carnival in Canada makes a profit, and Carnival in the UK makes a profit, and it's only in Trinidad Carnival to make a profit. Really? Really? Apparently the band leaders didn't get that memo. The Fed promoters didn't get a memo. The artists who will be performing at all of these 400 plus events, they didn't get a memo. You don't plan a Fed if you don't plan to make money, right? So if he's saying, I don't know who he's talking about and who making the profit, but clearly, and if this year they're saying they're expecting far more events than last year, and bands are already reporting that they are sold out, most of them. And that is good for the economy, but they wouldn't talk about that. In an economy that is on the brink of collapse, in an economy that is in tatters and shreds, mass bands sold out. Even before the end of January. Carnival isn't until March. Okie dokes. Nice. Right. Of course, the other headline story on The Guardian, hands out front. Young media personality leads 12 to win race to replace Rowley as candidate for Diego Martin West. I don't know. All right, let me say this. I don't have an issue with anybody throwing their hat in the ring. Um, but is it that every week going forward we ought to have something in the newspapers that in PNM business? Is it that I don't know. I don't know. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Dr. Brown was seen as being the heir apparent, and then out of nowhere, we have Mr. Devines coming on the scene, and he is now seen as being the candidate of choice, but nominee of choice, I should say. But I think personally that Dr. Brown's withdrawal of his consent was premature, because at the end of the day, it is not party groups that decide who the candidate is going to be. That decision rests with the screening committee, right? And even if you are not the preferred choice of the constituency executive, my understanding is so long as you have at least one party group nominating you, you can present yourself to the screening committee and be screened, and it is your duty to sell yourself. And who knows what could come out of it? Not because somebody is popular with the party groups necessarily means that they would get the nod. So I think Dr. Brown should have gone the full length, and he should have presented himself to the screening committee and let them make the decision. You're not to lose, because if you pull your consent, it means that you're not going before the screening committee, so you would not be the candidate. So if you had gone before the screening committee and they reject you, it's the same outcome. So it's better you throw your hat in the ring and give it a chance, and let's see what could happen. So I'm hoping good sense will prevail, and perhaps he might change his mind, albeit it doesn't seem that way. But I have no issues with Mr. Devines. I don't know him personally. I think I may have met him once. Memory serves me correctly, once or twice. Seems like a decent fella. But I think going into this next parliamentary term, with Dr. Rowley's departure and that of Fitzgerald Hines, the PNM is losing two of its more experienced, more prolific, more firebrand debaters, right? Because whenever you have a debate, for those of you who look at the Parliament channel, there are certain MPs on both sides that you look forward to. Well, I don't really look forward to hearing another on the other side. But I'm saying there are certain MPs who can keep your attention when they're debating. And then there are some, well, when the time they get up to talk, you don't mind taking a phone call. Because when you finish the call and they come back, if they're still talking, you don't really miss much. Then there are some MPs who, I don't know, believe that being in Parliament means that you're supposed to be a stump on a log. So you're there for 5 years, and if your constituents hear you speak 3 times or contribute 4 or 5 times, a handful of times, it's plenty. So some people you hear all the time, some people you look forward to hearing, and then some people is like, you might just you just happen to glimpse, hey, that person does talk. Oh, that's how they sound? Okay. So I'm saying, I don't know what is his competency level when it comes to debating, because it requires a certain level of research. And you need people who can respond adequately to the likes of Rudal Munilal, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, David Lee, who else? Ravi Ratiram to some extent, Barry Padarath. Those, when they come with their foolishness, you need people who can respond to them in kind and put them in their place. And this is what there are certain people on the government bench who do that. Dr. Rowley, Fitzgerald Hines, Coleman Burt. I love to see him, but when he in flight. You have Stuart Young, Marvin Gonzalez. Who else, boy? Faris Sarawi. Keith Scotland has some potential, but sometimes he tends to go overboard a bit. On the few occasions when Shamfa does speak, she could hold the attention as well. And Camille Robinson Regis, for sure. I love to hear when Camille giving it to them too. But that's what we need, right? So we'll see. I mean, I've heard Dr. Brown speak. He's very, he's not a firebrand, but he has substance when he debates. If you've seen him debate in the Senate, he could put a scolding on you without being loud and stuff. But we wait to see. But the media continues to make an issue out of this. If Dr. Brown has pulled out, well, then okay, why you need to put a front page story about hands out front? Who are the others? who's the other person who has the support of two party groups. But never a dull moment. So I see New Source, never to be outdone, putting her 2 pence with respect to this matter. Just let me get here. A member of the Diego Martin West party group, made contact and gave News Source a short interview, and here are excerpts with comments in brackets where clarity is needed. I'm not going to read it, right? If you're all interested in reading that, you could go to News Source page on Facebook. Not that I'm advertising it. And then, but you see, again, as Altair, I think, mentioned just now, the issue of the leaks. Why are we continuing to stir up this set of controversy and control? We have an election to fight, right? And I can tell you at the end of this election cycle, there's going to be a lot of fallout. I mean, friends will no longer be friends and all kind of things taking place. And all of this sort of intrigue that is unnecessary in the party. But we will see where that goes. Should I read that article? No, I don't think I'm going to read it. Even except to say the headline says Brown's withdrawal sparks concern over the screening process, because there are allegations being made in the public's domain that party groups are being called and being told that Hans is the boss choice and all kind of nonsense, and people are being strong-armed into supporting Mr. Devines. I don't know if there's any validity to that. It has been denied, but we don't need all of this control. So people always stay focused now. Gosh, is every week we had to give the UNC a talking point? Every week we had to be giving the TPP talking points. The TPP propaganda machinery on Facebook having a field day. How much times I had to be engaging them in the foolishness? Every minute they're putting out some post about PNM business. And as I have to keep telling them, is because the TPP have no business to put out. Your failed THA executive, your incompetent THA executive has given you all nothing of substance to post, right? So if it is they put up a sign or a plaque, they unveil a plaque, that is big news for them to post. Or they're so desperate for things to post, right? Because you're lamed up chief secretary and given all and nothing. What has been Fali's biggest accomplishment since he's been chief secretary? He opened 2 roundabouts. He put out a $10,000 bounty on a shark. What else he did? Spent millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. Say he selling Tobago all over the world, and yet still the only thing those travels have yielded is bonus points and travel miles on his credit card. Nothing else of substance for Tobago. So they have nothing. They show you they fix a culvert and they put up a big thing. Trevor Beans and Terrence and Trevor James and all of them. They had to make a big thing about that. Yeah, look, we patch our pothole here. This is the TPP working for the people. Nothing of substance. The never-ending audit. 3 years now of Ali auditing up to now is like, it reminds me of Donald Trump and his taxes that were under audit. 3 years now, we're still waiting. All they talk about zipline to get them into office. You hear anything more about that? Tracy thief money, Tricky Tracy, and all kind of thing, and his corruption. 3 years now, and you can't find one shred of evidence to send to the police to lock up Tricky Tracy. But put them back. Looking for candidates anyway. We'll talk about that on another day. Just now. Let me see. Right. So let me get this article here. I wanted to play the clip, but I'm not getting it. Hypocrisy knows no bounds with these people. Let me get it here. I'll read the article instead. Maybe if I get the soundbite somewhere, I will play it. So let me get this here. Where is it? Right. Paria officials under fire for 1.4 million phishing scam. Paria, nobody got locked up? Listen to this hypocrisy. Chairman of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, Wade Mark, wants to know why disciplinary action has not been taken against the employee of Paria Fuel Trading, who sent approximately $1.4 million to a fraudulent account in the US in a phishing scam. Deputy PAEC Chairman Rushton Paria agreed with Mark, saying, "I find it far to believe that nobody can get locked up for that." State-owned Paria Fuel Trading fell victim to a phishing scam in 2022, which led to it sending approximately $1.4 million TT, or US $200,254.42 to a fraudulent account in the US. Giving testimony at the PAC meeting at the Red House, Port of Spain yesterday, Paria Chairman Newman George said the company had been able to get back 75% of the losses it incurred in this incident, which I consider commendable, seeing that it was an international cyber attack and there was a short duration for resolution of this matter. Asked by Mark whether the company would get the other 25%, Darren Lal, finance lead for Paria Fuel, said the recovered amount was US $147,000 and Paria would have to write off the remainder of this based on a settlement. George had earlier disclosed that as a result of the phishing incident, which occurred in October 2022, the company became involved in a lawsuit in a Florida court alongside other parties affected by the fraud. So other companies around the world would have been impacted by the same thing. Asked by Mark whether the settlement was with the fraudsters, Ladd said that following the incident, Paria joined a lawsuit filed by other affected parties. He said the litigation resulted in the freezing of the account to which the funds had been diverted, but when it became clear that the costs of the litigation were significant, an agreement was reached to settle the matter in a mutually beneficial way, which allowed Paria to recover 75% of the losses. Right? So it don't make sense to spend 300,000 US to give out 250 or 225. That don't make sense, right? So take what you could get in this case. Also speaking to the PAEC meeting, Paria General Manager Mushtaq Mohammed said the matter had been reported to the TTPS fraud squad immediately upon discovery. Asked by Mark whether disciplinary action was taken against the employee, Mohammed said no disciplinary action was taken, though the company had discussions with the person involved. He said an internal investigation identified the need for training in phishing activity, and there was a reduction of employees on the mechanisms people could use to defraud the company, or re-education, sorry. He added that on a monthly basis, employees receive training on possible ways that electronic fraud can occur. We feel that those measures have been successful in being able to mitigate the risk of future losses, since we have had no further loss at Paria due to these types of incidents. But Mark and Paria were not satisfied. You are telling me that an organization like yours, it was left up to one person who had the power to give an instruction for 1.4 million? You are telling me that nobody from the banking side raised a red flag? Paria asked. And that person at Paria has gotten a tap on the wrist. I find that hard to digest, he added. And also responding, Heritage Petroleum Chairman Michael Comina, Senior Counsel, said when the incident happened, the company was not up to par with training. He said cybercrime was an evolving thing, and every Monday one had to look out for new ways of scamming. It is difficult to punish somebody who was not properly trained, he said. What is hypocrisy? So Wade Mark and Rushton Paria vex. They want to know why this person, when no disciplinary action wasn't taken against this person, why this person probably still employed there and whatnot. All they got was a tap on the wrist. How could that happen? Nobody on the banking side raised a red flag. You all remember in 2011? Well, we didn't find out until 2015. When 10 million US dollars, not 242,000 as in this case, 10 million US dollars went missing from the bank account of the National Energy Corporation, from the bank account at First Citizens Bank, 10 million US, almost $70 million TT today went missing. At that time, Wade Mark was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And the 10 million went missing. Instructions came from NEC. It went to the bank for citizens to do wire transfer or whatever as the case may be. And the money was transferred out of NEC's account and went to something in Guyana. They said first to do it with ketchup and hot dog and whatnot in Guyana. And then the money went somewhere else and somewhere else. And the country didn't find out about that until 2015 when somebody put the information in Dr. Rowley's mailbox. And when Dr. Rowley raised the issue, then Munilal came out and said, well, yes, that really happened, and so on and so on. And when it happened, we did this and we did that and the like. I didn't hear Wade Mark calling for heads to roll. This was 10 million US dollars went missing from the bank account, right? Left the bank account of a state enterprise. At the time, the person who was the head of NEC, the chairman, was also the head of First Citizens Bank, one Larry Hawaii. Same man, in charge of two institutions, right? Where 10 million US went missing. Nobody can get locked up. Nobody lost their work. Where was Paria then? He wasn't taken aback by that. He wasn't flabbergasted by that. The rest of them, where were they? For 4 years, they hide that from you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And if a whistleblower didn't put it in Dr. Rowley's mailbox, we would have never known that happened, right? They said they gave back some of the money and they would have to write off the rest. Wade Mark wasn't incensed by that. Then, what did they do? Rather than send home people, the man who was in charge of both institutions, First Citizens Bank and NEC, got a promotion. He was made Minister of Finance and he was given a golden handshake of $11.625 million to leave First Citizens and come and join the government. What value did he bring? I have no idea. But you, taxpayer, pay $11.625 million to lead the work. He presided over that, right? He was the head of the bank when $475 million was given to a consortium of 3 businessmen to build a hotel in Cascade called what was the name of it? The Carlton Savannah. Remember that hotel? It is now the Bricks and doing very well. Yes, that hotel didn't flourish under them. That loan of $475 million was given without collateral. No personal commitments on the part of these 3 businessmen. And what happened? The hotel flopped. The 3 businessmen walked away. The hotel went into receivership. And eventually the bank ended up selling it for less than what was owed on the loan. But the man who was in charge of the bank at that time paid $11.625 million. So he lost how many millions on that loan? And then you come and give him $11.625 million so he could become the Minister of Finance. And still paid him a salary inclusive of all the perks attendant with the position of Minister of Finance. And then, like himself, Wade Mark didn't have an issue with that. In fact, when Jack Warner, then Member of Parliament for Shogunas West under the ILP, sought to raise the issue in the Parliament and to have it debated, we had Wade Mark come and shield the minister and say, he now get a document here from the judiciary that said that this matter is sub judice and they can't discuss it and whatnot and stuff, and shoot down Jack Warner. Only to find out later that no such document came from the judiciary, but there's some document from Hawaii lawyer, I think it was stating that they filed something and whatever and whatnot and stuff, right? And then Wade Mark had to come back and apologize for misleading the Parliament. Imagine, to avoid the Speaker of the House having to go before the Privilege Committee for misleading the House. So when I listen to Wade Mark talking about nobody can get locked up and no disciplinary action taken, and he's taken aback by that, why are you taken aback by that? You have an issue with 242,000 US, but 10 million US you didn't have a problem with. But as I always say, under them less is more. 242,000 US is more than 10 million. What was the resolution to that matter? But when they like to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, PNM, people just vote based on race. No, it's because of issues like that they tried to hide from the population for 4 years. We knew nothing about that until they were forced to admit that it happened. Yeah? But what did the people who facilitated it at the bank, what did they get? You didn't have a problem with that then, Wade. And Rushton, where were you then when that happened? You weren't taken aback by that. Bunch of bloody hypocrites. Are you supposed to vote for that? Okay. Just thought I would put that out there on the table, right? Yeah. So when they want to come and talk, and because you remember the other day they had an issue with the Ministry of Trade had paid some 25 or 27,000 US for some scanners, some 5 scanners or something, handheld something or whatever it is, and the company turned out to be a fraudulent company. They all over the place, 20-something thousand US, and when you go to the bank, you can't get US and all of that, but they could find 20-something thousand US to spend on that. but 10 million US dollars went missing. And guess what? In 2011, you had issues getting Forex too. Could pull up the article where the chambers of commerce and members of the business community were complaining since 2011, the hardships they were experiencing to get US dollars. So much so that they had to call a meeting with the central bank governor and the minister of finance and all of that to discuss the issue then. Right? There was a businessman who read this story. I read this article here from the US, who is a supplier of whatever it is to companies in Trinidad. And he couldn't understand how it is that his customers from Trinidad kept telling him, well, you know, the reason why we late on payment is because we can't get US. And he couldn't understand. And he came here himself to see if there was truth to it. He attended the meeting that the Chamber of Commerce had at in West Moorings there, right? And he said, based on what he heard the minister say, he was not confident at all. He was not in any way relieved by the suggestions that they had made as to how they were going to treat with it, because he felt it was just a plaster and a sore. But 10 million US dollars, wasn't complaining then. You can't get US in the bank, but 10 million missing from NEC's bank account. No heads and roll. Well, they promote a man and pay him millions, make him richer. But who really making the rich richer? It wasn't the PNM that made Larry Hawaii richer. Just remember that. When all they want to talk about who really making the rich richer, because I see they come with this Selwyn Kojo come with this nonsense about the PNM sell out to the rich and all kind of foolishness. I don't know how else to explain which party really represents or is for the rich. But you know what? All they so focused on talking about the PNM supporting the 1%. And in the meanwhile, in the background, Prasad Bisesa and her party doing all kind of things. Because you know what? They don't have any, the 1% is not really inclined to support them from a frontline position. They have one 1%er by the name of Eli Zakuru. In fact, I recall Prasad Bisesa some months ago talking on the platform, and she was saying, I think when they had their internal election last year, and Mr. Zakuru would have gone up for one of the positions. I think he's on the executive. And she was saying, you know, people asking us, what are white boy doing in the UNC? That is an Indian party. What are white boy doing there? She said that, right? But they're behind the scenes. And they are looking on as the UNC does a whole lot of things and putting policy in place in the manifesto and in the National Economic Transformation Plan that is intended to benefit the 1%. And I keep telling you all, take the time, even though I plan to go through it in depth in the not too distant future, the UNC's National Economic Transformation Plan. Go through it and see, because Prasad Bisesa continues to encourage people. It is online. Go and read it and see what our plans for the economy are. Go and see, read it for yourself, where they keep talking. Everything is the private sector, and they will invite the private sector, and we will invite the private sector, and we will look at those companies that are currently state-owned, that are a drain on the treasury, and we will invite the private sector to either take them over, or you would get rid of those companies that we believe serve no real economic benefit to the state. But they're cussing about the closure of Petrotrin refinery, and the government want to sell the refinery, and we mustn't sell the refinery. But in their very economic transformation plan that they're offering you as a manifesto for 2025, it is riddled with page upon page upon page. We will invite the private sector, and we will invite the private sector. Everything is invite the private sector. So what does that do? Does that not make the rich richer? When you are looking to put the management of state enterprises into the hands of the private sector, and they are saying the government will take a hands-off approach. So we will not have any involvement whatsoever. All we will do is, and they have it in black and white, the government will receive dividends from these companies and will receive taxes. But we will leave it in the hands of the private sector to run it as they see fit. And you know, once it is that you bring private sector to run public enterprise, and you say as a government, you're taking a hands-off approach. So you know what? You're talking about you're going to create 55,000 jobs. The private sector not interested in that, you know. When they talk about restructuring, first thing to go, jobs. Just remember that. But don't say I didn't tell all you. All who considering and giving them your vote, don't say I didn't tell you all that. It is there. But we will interrogate it in great detail very soon. Okay? So take note of that. So I mentioned to you guys the other day, an article in Jack Warner's newspaper by one Peter Green. All right, before I go there, let me just read one other thing here quickly. I wish I'd get that sound bite now. Just now. Let me get this here. Right. That's not what I want. Suit. Give me 1 second. Also of note, so we have a new Soca Monarch competition, which was launched last week. The cost is $8 million. The government has contributed 4 out of the 8. So the private sector will be charged or tasked with coming up with the next 4 million. And that is what we need. Instead of having all of these competitions where the government funding and the government putting some, as they say, skin in the game, and the private sector does the rest. And the top prize, I think, is what? Is $1 million or 2 million or something. So I can't remember the exact figure. It's the first prize for the winner. And then they also have a junior category where I think the first prize is $200,000 or something like that, right? So another item on the calendar this year for Carnival. So we will see how this works out, right? But we take note of that. Just know. Right, where is this thing? So let me just get this here, folks. Where is it? Where is it? I just wanted to play a little something here. No, it is not a preview indulgence moment, albeit I could do that. So I have to touch on this because it kind of leads into the other thing that I'm going into. Now, I know there are some people on here who are fans of David Mohammed. And I have no issue with David Mohammed. In fact, as I said, I know the man, know him well. But, you know, I've been listening to David Mohammed within
whereby in our country.
Yes. And certain things that he has been saying, which while I was in Washington, when I did the live, and I played the clip for you guys, where he was talking about the Ministry of the Registry at the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, claiming that they were going to shut down the businesses or deregister the businesses, several black-owned businesses, thousands of black-owned businesses, because these people didn't pay taxes, which is wholly incorrect, right? And, you know, he spoke about normally they would advertise this and advertise that, but they didn't advertise this, which is, again, wholly incorrect. Right? And Brother Mohammed is, I mean, I have to say, for somebody who I have great respect for, I'm surprised that he's going down this road. And he is a man who is well researched, which is why I'm very surprised that he's putting information out there that is factually incorrect and can easily be proven to be so, right? And because he's a man with a following, particularly among persons of African descent, that a lot of people take what he says as gospel. So we know, Brother David, no history. He could come on so long and talk for hours and give you the history about the African circumstance and all of that, and talk about Eric Williams and capitalism, and you name it. The man bright, which is why I would have expected better from him, right? And this constant claim that he's making that the government deregistered thousands of black-owned businesses, again, is incorrect. Because what the government did, as part of the requirements for us to come off of the EU blacklist, with respect to Trinidad and Tobago being a possible haven, being a possible haven for tax evaders, we were required to strengthen our legislation. And one of the things that people use to hide money is businesses, legitimate businesses. So they may own businesses, but they have front men who, when you look at the registration documents, it will say that this person is the owner, but the beneficial owner, the man behind who really using the business as a front to launder money, they don't know who that is. And so the state requires you every year on the anniversary date of the incorporation of your business to do your annual returns. Your annual returns document, especially for those of you in business would know, indicates the name of the business, the company's registration number, right? The address of the business, who are the shareholders, how much shares they own, how many ordinary shares or whatever type of shares the company have, who is the secretary of the company, who is the corporate secretary, the managing director, other directors, all of this information, so that the state has an idea as to the identity of the business, right? Because they need to check these things to make sure that it's not really a front. Because the business, always recall Afro Raymond. You all remember the piece of land called Eden Gardens that the People's Partnership paid $175 million for, Carnival land, that was purchased by a company called Point Lisa Spark Limited for $5 million. And just a few months later, almost a year later, they sold it to the government for $175 million. In fact, Afro Raymond would have indicated in an interview that he did with Rennie B that that piece of land, which is now Eden Gardens, was being advertised in at least 2 real estate companies at a cost of $400,000 a lot. And the government went and paid $664,000 a lot. And Afro Raymond, who is a certified valuator and among the best in the country, was questioning what led to the increase in the price of that land. And he went on to say that, one, there was no need for the government to purchase the land, right? Because there was a lot of other land just adjacent to that they could have used that belonged to the state. And 2, based on his assessment, the government should not have paid more than $34 million, but they paid $175 after the vendor, Point Lisa Spark Limited, wanted $200 million. But they negotiated and it came down to $175, right? And Afro Raymond was asking, who are the beneficial owners of Point Lisa Spark Limited? Who are the beneficial owners, the real people who benefited from that $175 million? And that is the purpose of having these documents, so, you know? And there are lots of people who register businesses. And when you go and you register a business, they tell you have your post-incorporation documents to file. So if there are no changes to the ownership of your business, no changes in terms of stock holding, no changes in terms of the directors, the address, or so on, every year, your annual returns would just be a replica. So it's not that hard. Before, you had to go on the website of the ministry and download the documents in duplicate, and you had to fill it out in duplicate, and then you had to physically go down to the ministry, stand up in a line, present your documents, they check it against what they have on the system to make sure the information you have here matches what they have on the system. And if everything good, you go by the cashier and you pay your money, and then you come back with your receipt, and they stamp it, and they give you a copy, and they keep a copy, and you're gone. Now, through this administration, in digitizing the digitization of the public sector, the process, you could now do that. All that I just mentioned there, you could now do that from the comfort of your home or your office or on your phone while you're in the taxi or whatever it is. You pull up to the new cross system, you have your account. When you pull it up, the information, the annual returns document comes up, multiple pages, and you just have to keep going through, scrolling through, and making sure the information that they have there is the correct information. And once it is correct and you reach the last page, you hit submit, you have a portal that comes up that allows you to pay online. So you top up your account and you pay, you get your receipt showing that they received the money, and then within a matter of minutes, whereas before it used to take 3 to 5 days to get an email with your documents registered, within a matter of minutes, you're getting an email with your copy to keep, right? So they made it even easier for you to do it. You don't need to take the hassle to leave your business to go. Simple as that, you know. And people not even doing that, and it costs $40 a year. But if you miss the deadline, right, you're allowed to a 30-day window grace period in which to file after the incorporation date. And then every month thereafter, they charge you a fine of $300. So some people who choose not to file their incorporation, their annual returns, would have accrued these fees of $300 a month, $300 a month. And when it is that you have these things outstanding for years, the money adds up. So you may not be in a position to pay. In recognition of that, what did the government do? Almost 2 years now, not almost, yes, 2 years now, the government has been running an amnesty, saying if it is you find yourself in that situation, you have not filed your incorporation documents for years, and the penalties have skyrocketed, we're giving you an amnesty. File for all the years that you didn't file, and all you have forget we will waive the penalties, the 300 a month. We waiving that, and all you have to do is to pay $40 per year for each year that you're owing. So if you're outstanding 5 years, $40 by 5, you pay $200, and you file all of your outstanding returns, and you're good to go. Continue to do what it is you're doing, and just make sure going forward every year you do that. You don't have time to do it, you don't know how to do it, you haven't registered for cross or whatever. It have people who you could go to do that for you. You pay a small money, maybe $150, and they set up everything for you, and they show you how to do it so you could do it yourself. And if you still don't want to, you could go to them every year and just let them file it for you for a fee. Simple as that. And there are lots of people who didn't do that, found themselves in this situation. The government has been granting extension after extension. Every time they have an extension, they say, all right, this is the cutoff date. And a couple of weeks before the cutoff date, they come and they announce another extension for another 3 months. And then when that cutoff date arrives, you see they come and another extension for another 3 months. And they kept going like that, giving all of these businesses the opportunity to be able to file, no penalties, just pay for the year, the $40 fee for all the years that you're outstanding. And people still didn't take advantage of the opportunity, and found themselves in a situation where the government said, well, okay, if we give you 2 years and you're not interested, we can only assume that this business is no longer in operation and you couldn't care. So we have to get these businesses off the register. And they were deregistered. But here it is, you have David Mohammed coming and saying that the government shut or did they register all of these businesses, these black-owned businesses and whatnot, and it's because of them, because some of these businesses have contracts with the government and they ain't getting paid, and that's why they couldn't pay the tax. It has nothing to do with taxes. Your annual returns has nothing to do with taxes. So that's the first piece of misleading information that is out there, and he has not corrected it. And for somebody who accustomed doing research, it is very easy for David Mohammed to do that. Eh? He hasn't done that. But instead, he chooses to double down. Let me get this here. Just play a little bit of this thing.
Where Parliament for San Fernando West, former attorney, but Kashawn Walcott won the gold medal in 2012. All of these great achievements, we said things like we made it. Because in Trinidad and Tobago, Indians and Syrians can both be rich at the same time. Africans and Indians can both be rich at the same time. But Syrians and Africans cannot both be rich. Syrians and the 1% are rich because Africans are poor. And I don't think that the 1% community has had a greater servant to safeguard their economic interests and opportunities, more so than our last political regime and our last prime minister, who has made Trinidad and Tobago very proud on the world stage. He has accomplished and represented us well on the outside, but he has not represented the interests of the African community on the inside. As a matter of fact, to the contrary, he has facilitated some measures that have hurt the African community, such as preventing the establishment of an African bank, destroying the legacy of CLICO, which took place through his Ministry of Finance, closing down tens of thousands of African businesses who they just tried to scramble and struggle last week to save, and many could not. And this policy of helping the rich to get richer and hoping that they feel sympathy for the poor, that was a recipe for disaster, beloved. But now we are even losing the last bit of power. And for those of you who are saying, oh, well, Brother David, it's not about race, unfortunately, that's part of your brainwashing. Don't blame me. Because we will see loans not being given to Africans in banks and the Caribbean white community never being told no. But we will say, but it's not about race. We will see inordinate prison population of 95% African, even though you have some of the biggest drug lords and major big fish white collar criminals who are non-African, who never go to jail, nor if they've even arrested, nor under suspicion. But we're the ones who are going to say it's not about race. And now the African mantle of leadership, which is largely cosmetic and visible, but still a source of inspiration for all of our disenfranchised African youth. Now that even that has been lost, we are going to say it's not about race. And you know something? Let me say to my African brothers and sisters in politics, all of you, as my people, I love you. To the parliamentarians, the way you conduct yourself, I don't like it. The way you operate, for the most part, I cannot trust you. But now we've come to the point where almost all of you have lost respect for you. It's very difficult for a conscious black man like me to have any last thread of respect for you. If you can go into a room as a proud African with integrity and belief and the recognition of a goal for our people, and you go into a room with that kind of consciousness, and then you come out of the room with your head down and your tail between your legs, feeling frustrated and embarrassed and ashamed, powerless. What sense does it make us putting you in positions of political power if you could be bought or sold or convinced against your will so easily, even when just a few hours before you had a different opinion? So when the former Attorney General, Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, when he uses that kind of language, we did it. And I asked, what was it that you did? Well, what was did or done was whatever was done to you all in that room when you went in. And then came out thinking differently, and now the whole local white community is celebrating what you did, but really what you did it to us. And Trinidad and Tobago might become the first country in the world that when the issue of reparations comes up, that we're going to say, it's not about race. And the injustice, the oppression, the inequality, the racial profiling and stereotyping, the economic, ethnic cleansing, and all of the injustice against African people, you all are going to be the cheerleaders and bandwagoners to say, it's not about race.
You know, David Mohammed is on record as having said he don't vote, he never vote and all that. And so, okay. I am saying, all these businesses, but they claim there's now tens of thousands of businesses that they shut down because you have the place in Laventille. You know what you could have done? You're always having lectures on so on there. All you had to do, you had a laptop or two, whatever it is, and encourage these people to come if they need help, to file their returns, to take advantage of the amnesty, if it is they're interested in keeping their businesses running. Some of these people, as I said, probably abandoned their business long time ago and even bother, they went and they registered their business as a sole trader, however it is, incorporated and so on, and they just didn't work out and they just figure. Okay? Some of them legitimately may not have known that they are supposed to file these annual returns and so on. But that's what you're supposed to do. You should give them the opportunity to assist them if they're genuinely interested in maintaining their business. Because some of them probably too say, well, what the hell with that? Yes, I'll just go and register another business. And to heck with that. But here it is that you are making a case to say that the government is shutting down black-owned businesses and all of that. Where is the data to show that? Where is the data to show that? And then now you're talking about your lost respect for the black members of parliament, and on what basis? That they went into a room with one opinion and came out with another. In Tobago, a decision was made, right? In retreat. Agenda item number whatever came out. What is the agenda item? The Prime Minister has announced that he will be stepping down as Prime Minister in a couple of months' time, and somebody has to replace him because he's not inclined to call a general election at this time. There's still a lot of work that the party has to do, a number of projects that they have to complete. And so rather than call an election now, he will allow somebody else from among the other 20 members of parliament on the government side to serve out the rest of his term as Prime Minister. None of us were in the room. We don't know. But We know that the opportunity was given, the floor was open for anybody who was interested. Now, I know the process as it goes is somebody would nominate somebody. You don't nominate yourself. So somebody probably raise their hand and say, I would like to nominate Stuart Young. All right. We have a nomination for Stuart Young. Anybody gets a second, that I second. And I'm operating based on how we select officers with respect to certain boards that I sit on, right? So that's how we do it. So a position comes up. Okay, we have the position of vice president or so-and-so, this committee. Do we have any nominations? I would like to nominate so-and-so. Anybody wants a second? Second in nomination. All right. Do we have any other nominations? I would like to nominate so-and-so. All right. Anybody second that? Right. We have 2 nominees. Anybody else? No? Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we close nominations. All right. We have a motion on the table for nominations for this position to be closed. Right? Anybody second? All right. So nominations for this position closed. All right. These are the nominees. Hand out the ballots. Vote. Right. We vote. Everybody put there. You fold up your ballots and thing, and then the chair opens it. I have 1 for so-and-so. Pull it up. 1 for so-and-so. And you keep going so until all the ballots have been counted. And the person who has the most amount of votes is the person who wins the position. And everybody else support that. Not because 10 people vote for John and 8 people vote for Joe. John got the majority of votes, and therefore John is the duly elected vice president of whichever committee. The 8 people who didn't vote for John and who voted for Joe and saying, well, I'm not supporting John because, no, it was a fair vote. John got the majority of votes, and therefore he is now the vice president of that committee, and everybody has to get behind John. Simple as that. It's not a matter to say, well, only 10, so it's only those 10 supporting and the next 8 hold out. No. The process is whoever wins, that's the end of it, and everybody now supports that person because that person has won the vote. Simple as that. So if it is that when this opportunity came up, we say, all right, we call for nomination, somebody nominates Stuart Young. Nomination second. Okay, Stuart Young, we have 1 nomination. Anybody else interested? Anybody, any other nominations? I would like to nominate Penny Beckles. All right, do we have a seconder for that? Right. Anybody else? Anybody else? No? Marvin Gonzalez? No? Foster Cummins? No? Camille Robinson? Anybody else? No? No more nominations? All right. So we have 2 nominees. Folks, hand out the ballots. Please vote. 11 voted for Stuart Young. 9 voted for Penny Beckles. Dr. Rowley abstained because he doesn't want to give the impression that he supports or that he unfairly, endorse anybody. So that is it. Stuart Young got the most amount of votes. The other people who didn't vote for him accept, okay, he won the vote. So we supporting whoever won the vote because that's how it is. It was a fair vote, the man win. People say that they want the process and we want the general council to be involved and whatnot. When the general council was had last week, Saturday, any member of the general council from all 41 constituencies, if they wish to raise, or any member of the executive who had an issue, all you had to do, come to the microphone and you want to move a motion or whatever it is to have the general council vote. 1 man, 1 vote. Could I do that? Nobody did that. Nobody raised any motion stating that they didn't like how the process went on. Nothing like that. Dr. Rowley got up and he said, here what? There's talk that I forced people and I lobbied for people to vote for Stuart Young. If there is, and I'm asking my parliamentary colleagues to please rise. If I came to any of you all and lobbied and tell all you vote for Stuart Young, please remain standing. Everybody sit down. So I don't know what David Mohammed is talking about, or they went in the room with one opinion and you come back out with some other opinion. What other opinion? If we had a vote which we all agreed to, nobody said, I don't like this process. Folks, this is what it is. I'm stepping down, somebody has to replace me, and it has to be one of you. Okay? We need to take a vote on it, because I am not going to come and tell all you, just as it is. Let us have democracy. This is the process. Anybody has any issue with the process, you don't like it, so you could have speak up then and say, no, we don't agree, this is whatever we think. All right? We have a motion on the floor to take this matter to the General Council. Do I have a seconder for the motion? All right. We have a motion. All those in favor, say aye. Any against? Nobody did that. None of the people who voted for Penny did that. You went to General Council, nobody come and say, this is how we want to do it. They had occasion and opportunity, nobody did it. They decide, we're going and coalesce around stewardship. Simple as that. But you have David Mohammed coming out to talk about, he went in the room with one opinion and he come out with that next opinion and he betrayed. Come on now, man. Nothing was stopping anybody. Penny could have moved a motion too. She was in General Council. Move a motion. Any of the people who came in the Maxi from Arima supporting Penny, who are members of General Council, could have come and move a motion. Nobody did. So I don't know where David Mohammed going with this. I mean, come on, we have an election to fight and you add into gaslighting persons of African descent to make it seem, and this thing about the local white community is happy, and where are you getting that from? I have spoken continuously on this platform telling you all how Dr. Rowley and the PNM, this administration, has taken money out of the pockets of the so-called 1%. The buildings that Kamla Persad-Bissessar complained about the government renting in 2009, 2010 under Patrick Manning. All the time they complaining, but they came into office and they had the power to stop renting these buildings. What did they do? Because they had the whole government campus downtown that Manning built and it just needed to be outfitted. The same way when the Rowley administration came in 2015 and didn't have the money that Kamla had, but they were able to find the money to outfit these buildings so that we could stop renting from the 1% and put all of the entities that now occupy those buildings, put them in there. Keith Rowley did that. Persad-Bissessar, who always boasting she had the most amount of energy revenues in the country's history, she could have done the same thing that Keith Rowley did. He didn't take 5 years to do it. He didn't take 8 years to do it. It was a priority as soon as they came in to do that. When they came in, the building on Alexandra Street was still unoccupied after 5 years of paying rent every month and 5 years of paying for security at $1 million a year. 5 years of them spending over $120 million to outfit the same blasted building that they told us in 2009 they had an issue with because Paris owned it. But as soon as they come into office and they ask Monilal, so what has changed? What did he say? Well, you see, the issue we had with the building was when the PNM was in power, and because Paris is PNM, we felt that there was a conflict. But now that the PNM is no longer in power and Paris is no longer in parliament, we don't have a problem with renting the building because it's not the government. The government is not the PNM. So Paris has no link to the current government, which is the People's Partnership. So it's okay for us to rent the building. So the only issue we had with renting the building was that the government had links with the landlord and we didn't agree with that. So it's no longer an issue renting the building. Okay, well, use it. Because the issue you had no longer exists. Use it. We read it in an article and I'll probably try to find it, right? The article was entitled A Can of Worms, a Guardian newspaper article where they would have interviewed all the ministers under whom that building fell at some point in time between 2010 to 2015. Surud Ranbachan, Marlene Kudre, I think Chandra Sharma, I think possibly Monilal as well. And Jack Warner would have told us for that 5 years, they kept fighting in cabinet who to get the building, who to get the building. And every time they decide, well, okay, we'll give the building to this ministry. They spend money to outfit it to suit what that ministry would need. And then they come back and they change their mind. Because somebody, the person who was the minister who was supposed to get that building, end up getting space in Nicholas Towers, you know, the kind of, the blue building, the other blue glass building, the taller one, where Flo is, right? That nice, the nicer one with the kind of curve. Because instead of going into that building on Paris building or Paris family building, they get a few floors in Issa Nicholas building and they prefer that. Why? Because they have a view of the ocean. So when they sit down in the office and they rock back in their nice leather chair, they could take in the sunset, or they could look at the water taxi or the ferry coming in, or they could watch at the cruise ship because everywhere, every corner they turn, they have a view. So they don't want that building no more. All right, but we'll give it to somebody else. And then they give it to another minister and they outfit it. And when time for that minister to move in, they get space in the waterfront. So they may want that building no more. Right? But the minister changed because Kamala had a cabinet reshuffle and the minister didn't want to go there and everybody want the same waterfront that they malign. The same waterfront that Kamala Persad-Bissessar said, Manning is overheating the economy. And Manning is crowding out the private sector. Too many people employed. The government has too many projects going on. If it is you want to do a little bit of construction work home, you can't get a mason and you can't get a carpenter because everybody working for the government. If you want to buy blocks or cement and you go to the hardware, they have to put you on a list and you had to wait 3 months because the government buying out all of the supplies. She was complaining about that. Too many people were employed. Too many people on the government payroll. They said Manning just want to change the Port of Spain skyline because he's obsessed with tall buildings, and that was a vanity project. Vanity project. Never mind the fact that in the last budget of their Minister of Finance, what was his name? Boy, Gerald Yetming. Go back and see the budget of 2000 or 2001, 2000, I think it was, where they articulated the same waterfront. The only difference was they were planning to build a Marriott hotel instead of the Hyatt. But when the PNM decided to do it, it's a vanity project. Vanity project, we could have better things to spend the money on. Right? Same building. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Zaman Enterprises, Paris, father-in-law collecting rent. Not a public servant step foot in the building. But your taxpayer money pay for that. And then you want to talk about the PNM. They could have stopped it. In that article, Munilal said if they could go back and go back in time, maybe they would have canceled the lease, because the amount of money that they would have had to pay in penalty for canceling the lease would have been significantly less than what they wasted in rent and never used the building. They say that Marlene Kudre said that was a headache. She didn't want it. She didn't want the building. Nothing was preventing them from canceling the lease for the 5 years, but they chose to keep it and renew it. These are the things that they don't talk about. So when David Mohammed wants to come and tell you that this government and the local white community is happy and the 1% happy because the PNM, no. But when this administration came in and they realized all that money done spent on the building, over 120-something million to outfit, $5 million for security and 40-something million in rent, they say, listen, it don't make sense that we cancel the lease now because all that money done pay, the building is outfitted and everything, let us just use it. Let us just use it instead of all that money going down the drain. So they used it, and since then, 2016, that has been the head office for the Ministry of Public Utilities. But who facilitated that? If they had canceled the lease in 2010, when they came in because they had a whole issue, no problem. But understand, for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they had 1 Alexandra Street, empty, paying rent. And then they needed a new building for the CPO's office. And what did they do? They went to the same Zaman Enterprises. It is on record. Rudal Munilal said that. And wrote to Zaman Enterprises to ask them, number 3 Alexandra Street available. We're looking for our office for the to house the CPO because the building on St. Vincent Street is no longer adequate. So we're looking for a new building. And we understand that number 3 Alexandra Street is empty. The next door, companion building. Zaman Enterprises said, yes, the building is available. And they were going to rent it, but like somebody was spending years and said, well, how you could do that? Or they have number 1 empty and paying rent for it, and now you're going to rent number 3. How you could do that? You know what they did? They went to Paria. Spent $53 million for a building we can't find. Said they're going and send the CPO there. $53 million in rent. It is in the Auditor General's report. Every year from December 2012, when they signed the lease, until June of 2016, when that lease came to an end. Your taxpayers' money was paying for that. They never used the building. In fact, in January of 2015, when a member of the PNM raised an issue in the parliament, asked a question about what is happening with that building based on what they were seeing in the Auditor General's report. And the then minister in the Ministry of Finance, Rudy Indar Singh, answering it on Hansard, said that the building is not yet occupied because they had some challenges with respect to outfitting. December 2012, 2013, 2014, January 2015, well, you're still having problems to outfit a building. But you had experience outfitting number 1 Alexander Street. You all did it on at least 3 occasions. For the entirety from December 2012 until such time as June of 2016. Rent paying, no outfitting, the building never used. Right? You all remember I went to look for the building and couldn't find it. But it's in the same Auditor General report that they're talking about. And the Auditor General, in the same report, the 2013 report, the 2014 report, the 2015 report, the 2016 report. Go and pull it up online and you could read and see 53 or $56 million spent in rent and the building never used. When we called, Kamla Prasad Bisesa went on a platform. When it is under Maxi Coffee, who was Minister of Public Administration, the ministry that is responsible for renting buildings for the state. When they were talking about that and they were looking to move the CPO's office from St. Vincent Street to where it is now, the same number 3 Alexandra Street. Kamla jumped up on a platform and said, I am told that the staff in the CPO staff in Barataria are very happy with the accommodation and nothing is wrong with the accommodation and they are happy there, I am told. And they don't want to move. She said that. And she said that Maxi Coffee was trying to frustrate the renewal of the lease for the Barataria building because they wanted to move the CPO office to number 3 Alexander Street. She said that. And Google and I, on air on 91.9, called the CPO office to ask them, could you give us the address of your office in Barataria? And the woman who answered the phone from the CPO office said, sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. We have no office in Barataria. We have never had an office in Barataria. The only office the CPO has is on St. Vincent Street. Right? I called and asked, and then when Google had called on air, the woman was frustrated. How many times I will tell all you, we have no office in Barataria. We never had an office in Barataria. I don't know what you're talking about. But Kamla come on platform and say, oh, the staff in Barataria for the CPO office very happy with the accommodations and they don't want to leave, and Maxi Coffee trying to frustrate the process. But this bald-headed lout have the audacity to come yesterday and do a live, Arnold Roberts, Doubles and Coffee, doing a live to talk about, oh, Rowley does lie and who does lie and all of that foolishness. But your leader stood up on a platform and lied to the population and said the staff in Barataria for the CPO office were happy there. No building, no staff. But of course, the government had no choice but to end up moving the office when they had the big earthquake in August of 2018 and the CPO's office on St. Vincent Street was damaged. Suffered significant damage, where it had parts of the front of the building falling on the pavement. It's a good thing nobody was passing in front at the time. And they moved out and they subsequently at Alexandra Street. But that's $50-something million that plus what they spent on Alexandra Street for the 5 years. They didn't stop the lease. So who really benefiting? The 1% benefiting how? Who they benefiting from? Really? Who they benefiting from? Really? It's not the PNM. That is why Issa Litmus probably sit down and waiting, hoping that the UNC get back into office, so that one of the many unnecessary ministries that Prasad Bisesa is promising to bring, maybe they might be able to rent the blue glass building at the bottom of Abercrombie Street and Independence Square, that for the last 8 years, thanks to Keith Rowley and the PNM moving customs out of that building, he has not received any rent for that building. It's just there, waiting for Prasad Bisesa to come in so that she could rent it, because as I told you earlier, I didn't remember, George Nicholas, who's the son of Issa Nicholas, was her chairman for Caribbean Airlines. Remember when he said they donate the $5 million US check to the Children's Life Fund and then it turned out to be a hoax? They had a whole big ceremony with big check. And then it turns out Caribbean Airlines didn't have the money to be able to facilitate that. Fooling the people. So when I listen to David Mohammed talking this thing about the local white community is happy, how have they benefited? And I keep asking, how have they benefited? In what way? Because the main way they benefit from the state is the rental of their buildings. And a lot of their buildings are no longer rented in Port of Spain because the state moved out. The Ministry of Education Tower, which is part of government campus, they had so many little offices around the place. Right? The Ministry of the Attorney General, they moved into government campus. Board of Inland Revenue. I think the Ministry of Public Administration also has some space in that same, I think in the upper floors of the Board of Inland Revenue building. Customs and all of them. And now the government is building, no longer renting from Massey, because the Ministry of Health has its own headquarters. Soon enough, when the ministry and this building, for the headquarters of the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, that is being constructed at a pace. If you drive down Tragreed Road and you will see, right? I think is it Stanmore Avenue or Victoria Avenue? One out of the two, I can't remember which one. And you will see how far advanced the construction of that building is. And when that building is complete and the ministry moves out, they will be moving out of Faris Al Rawi building into government-owned premises. So Zaman Enterprises will just have this tall building, they're empty on St. Vincent Street, and nobody would be using it. Because they have plenty other buildings around Port of Spain that are empty and have been empty for the last few years because nobody needs it. So that is going to be empty soon enough. And at the pace that they're going at, it might probably be empty by the end of this year because that building, the new building, might be finished then. So who really? But of course, I'm not talking about, she wants to create the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Ministry of Defense, in addition to the Ministry of National Security. These three new ministries will need office space. So somewhere you have landlords hoping and praying that Prasad Bisesa and the UNC win the next election so that they could be in the running to have their buildings, which currently empty, could be rented for $500,000 and $600,000 a month. When this government trying to reduce that rental bill, she come in to propose policy that is going to increase that rental bill, to reverse what the PNM has been doing. But you wouldn't hear David Mohammed talk about that. You wouldn't hear Philip Alexander talking about that. Only talking about the 1% and the 1% only PNM. Really? But can't tell you how. But they'll just put that out there and people will run with it. Rubbish. As I said, I'm disappointed in David Mohammed. But I will not, anyway. Let me leave it there. Boy. So, let me get this here. Just get this here for you guys. There was something else that I wanted to play. Let me just play this quickly. Touch on that article because it's already here. Right. That's a little piece. Straight out of. Put this back on.
Patriots are out here. 80% of us love our country. The other 20% are who is in cabinet, raiding the treasury, charging 10. Raiding the treasury, charging $10 million to build a box raid, and then coming out, and as soon as Kamala come out, you buy 2 big apartment building. Come on, listen, there are people out there who know the scandals and bandits that exist in government. We have to stand together to rebuild our nation. It's more than just going to a Juve concert. It's about helping small business, supporting each other, having programs to build your team. Listen, people could say what the hell they want to say. Model Life has more staff benefits than any company in Trinidad. Any company. I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but this is the type of example that we need in the corporate sector to regain the credibility and participation of national development. Not bandits. Not bandits that call for boycott. Because I address that they're spreading a hate campaign and using all kind of black people to bad talk the Black Party. You think I don't know the agenda and the policy? There are people who hate themselves. That is no way to spread love or national development or sustainability. But we need to be aware that crookery is in cabinet. Who is speaking? The chief whip. He's on $1 million bail from the court. That's who Kamala have, Mr. Lee. The man is have a bail. It's not $10, it's not $100, not 100,000. It's $1 million bail. And read the EMBD report. Why is Rudal still in Parliament? Read the report. Okay, his lawyer told me he's appealing it. Okay, we'll get the judgment of the appeal and then come back to Parliament. But don't disgrace our Parliament and our taxpayers and sit in Parliament every freaking week. A disgrace. What about Imbert? $3 billion unaccounted for. The Auditor General exposed it. Why is he even in Parliament? That is the Minister of Finance. And
you see that point that he made there? See that point that he made there? We are in the almost to the end. Today is the 19th of January. right? 12 more days to go. The government, the Ministry of Finance is required to submit the accounts for last year to the Auditor General by the end of this month, right? We know the issue that took place last year. Up to now, the easiest, we got the explanation for that. Well, he said 3.6 or whatever, but it's 2.6 and then 700 and something. We got the explanation for both of them, right? The 2.6, we were told it was an issue with the electronic check cashing system in central bank. The central bank identified in the progress report for the quarter ended September 30th, in their progress report, that there were issues with the electronic check cashing system, right, that they implemented. They admitted that. They didn't go into granular details, but they said they discovered issues with the thing from the time it was launched. They never had that problem before with the understatement of government's revenues before this, the implementation of that. The Auditor General said that she wrote to the central bank because she wanted to go into the central bank to see the system and whatnot and understand, and because that is crucial too. And she was denied. The minister came and he told us what really transpired. It's not a matter that she was denied. She made the request, the central bank responded, and they told her, well, okay, we're willing to facilitate your request, but we need X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. She gave them X, Y, and Z, but she didn't give them A, B, and C. And they said, because you didn't give us A, B, and C, but we can't facilitate here because we need A, B, and C based on the law. Based on the law. The Central Bank Act specifies how she needs to make the request. And there were certain things that she didn't do, but she ought to know that she didn't. In September last year, the 16th of September, there was an article that came out that said the Auditor General and the Central Bank have agreed to meet to iron out the issue with respect to the electronic check cashing system. September to October, October to November, November to December, December to January. 4 months now. That article was published. Did the Auditor General meet with the Central Bank? Did she scrutinize the electronic check cashing system? Did what if the meeting took place? We don't know because the media are no longer interested in that. They're all up in PNM business, but they don't have time to make a phone call or to send a WhatsApp or an email to the Auditor General's office or to the Central Bank Governor to ask, did this meeting take place? You all made it a front page issue in September. But since then, no follow-up. All of a sudden, so nobody interested in settling that. So when I hear Gary Aboud make that point, and he talk about why is Colmembert still there, right? I am asking, what is happening with that meeting that would put rest to this issue once and for all? Instead of, we keep hearing and still have people talking about 2.6 billion missing and $3 billion missing, when that issue could have been put to bed months ago. But the responsible media not asking if the meeting took place. The responsible media hasn't sought to find out whether or not the Auditor General was satisfied with the explanation given, and she received the proof, having gone into this meeting and interrogated the system and realized, yes, this is what has happened. And if that has happened, what has she done to alert or to inform the population that the minister was correct and this is what happened? We went, they said was this, we had the meeting with Central Bank, we satisfied that this is what happened and there is no money missing. This was the biggest issue last year, and to date, we still don't know. But at the end of this month, we have another report for last year's accounts going to the Auditor General, and the population still waiting to hear the conclusion of what happened last year. I don't understand. Why hasn't the minister dealt with this? He was keeping us up to date. Did the meeting take place? That is what we want to know. If it has not taken place, why 4 months later, on an issue so critical, the Auditor General has not met with the Central Bank? But I can't say that because I don't know if she met or if she didn't meet. And the only way I could know would be to have to go now to file a Freedom of Information request on either the Central Bank or the Auditor General's department, inquiring as to whether or not the meeting take place. And if so, what was the findings? All these people who love to file Freedom of Information requests, like Inchan Ishmael, who want to file Freedom of Information requests on NCC to find out how much money they spent last year, and he want granular details on what they spent and how much they spent for a tent and all of these things. But big issue like that, he wouldn't file a Freedom of Information request to inquire about that. Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, the UNC lackey who loved to run to the courthouse every minute and file freedom of information request all the way up to the Privy Council. He wouldn't file one to inquire as to whether or not this meeting took place and what was the outcome. Philip Alexander, he wouldn't do it. You know why? They're not interested in an outcome of this, because they know once it is that we get the meeting was had and it is proven that there is no money missing, what they will do? What they will do? So when it is you see lives like this taking place, they look for that. I say they look for that.
Mr. Finance, 3,000 million. People can't imagine how much money that is in a country that does not have a legal officer in the fisheries division. So the shrimp trawlers could rape 50,000 grassroots division. So the shrimp trawlers could rape 50,000 grassroots fishermen, destroy their nets and their pots, and I supposed to be quiet and they call me 1%. All the rest, all of them, they don't know the policy and the importance of policy and guidelines and foreign guidelines and sustaining our nation and protecting our vulnerable. It is a disgrace that people are losing sight of national development. That's all I have to say.
One more thing to touch on, and then I'll open the lines, right? So I started to read for you all the other day an article that was published in the Sunshine newspaper entitled "The UNC's Achilles Heel, Confronting Racial Rhetoric and Divisive Allies." As Trinidad and Tobago approaches the pivotal 2025 general elections, the UNC faces a critical challenge that could derail its aspirations to form the next government. While widespread national discontent with Keith Rowley's leadership of the country has created an opportune moment for the UNC to position itself as a credible alternative, UNC's tolerance for racial rhetoric and alignment with divisive figures remains a glaring liability. A recent post on Facebook resurrected racial slurs allegedly uttered in 2015 by UNC activist Jaishima Leeladhar Singh, which exemplifies the Achilles heel. Leeladhar Singh, a known party loyalist and coordinator of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers, runs a chat group called Citizens for Sustainable and Competitive TNT. This group, that includes political figures, media, private and public sector, and academics, has become a platform for some of the most vile and toxic rhetoric imaginable. On this chat, persons of African descent are routinely referred to as vermin and cockroaches, language that dehumanizes an entire segment of the population and recalls some of history's darkest moments. Such blatant racism not only alienates voters, but also entrenches the perception that the UNC is rooted in divisiveness rather than inclusivity. The failure of the party's leadership to unequivocally denounce these actions is both a moral and political failure that risks undermining its campaign in the upcoming elections. The race factor tarnishing the UNC's image. The problem is not confined to Leeladhar Singh's chat group. Recent racially charged comments from UNC supporters about Prime Minister Keith Rowley's announcement that Stuart Chung would succeed him as PNM leader and Prime Minister. He never said leader, he said Prime Minister. Should he resign before 2025 election, highlight the persistence of this divisive narrative. Young's heritage and perceived grooming as Rowley's successor have become the target of unwarranted, racially tinged attacks. Rather than focusing on Young's qualifications or the internal divisions that this announcement has created within the PNM, some UNC supporters have chosen to stoke racial narratives. This approach is not only counterproductive, but also distracts from the real opportunities presented by the apparent discord in the PNM. The UNC should be capitalizing on this inability to position itself as a competent, inclusive alternative, not perpetuating the very divisions it claims to oppose. A political and moral crisis. The stakes for the UNC could not be higher in 2025. Trinidad and Tobago is a nation yearning for leadership that addresses pressing issues such as crime, economic revitalization, and public accountability. Yet, the UNC risks squandering this opportunity by failing to address the racism and divisiveness within its ranks. The language used on some social media platforms by several UNC supporters is not just abhorrent, it betrays the values of a party aspiring to lead a multicultural nation. And such rhetoric, coupled with attacks on Young that are racially tinged rather than policy-focused, undermines the UNC's ability to a broad electorate. A call for leadership and accountability. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa must take bold, decisive action to address these issues. First, she should publicly and unequivocally denounce the racist rhetoric from any known UNC supporter or activist. Second, she should also establish strict guidelines for members and affiliates with clear consequences for engaging in discriminatory or divisive behavior. Third, there must be a tectonic shift of the UNC's narrative from racial attacks to consistently and clearly highlighting its plans for tackling crime, improving the economy, and addressing public accountability. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, to counter perceptions of bias, the UNC must actively engage communities that have traditionally supported the PNM, demonstrating its commitment to inclusivity and fairness. The PNM's internal politics are distraction the UNC cannot afford. So the PNM's apparent fractures highlighted by Rowley's endorsement of Young and the ensuing noise from the so-called party stalwarts are significant. However, the UNC cannot afford to become consumed with commentary on the PNM's internal politics. Instead, it must focus on leveraging this discord by presenting a unified front and compelling alternative vision for the nation. The party's campaign should be centered on solutions, not distractions. A party for all or a party of division. The 2025 general elections are not just an opportunity for the UNC to challenge the PNM. They are a chance to redefine its identity and its role in Trinidad and Tobago's political landscape. To succeed, the UNC must distance itself from the toxic rhetoric and divisive figures that currently tarnish its image. The party must embrace a narrative of uniting neglected communities, demonstrating its commitment to the well-being of all citizens regardless of race, ethnicity, or political affiliation. Anything less would betray the nation's hope for a brighter future. The electorate is watching closely the UNC's ability to confront its Achilles heel. Its passive acceptance of racial and divisive rhetoric will determine not only its electoral prospects, but also its moral authority to lead. The time for unity is now, and if the UNC is serious about leading TNT, it must rise above the fray of racial rhetoric and focus on the issues that truly matter. The electorate yearns for solutions to the crime epidemic, economic stagnation, and governance failures, not more division. The time for action is now. The UNC must demonstrate that it is a party for all, committed to unity, inclusivity, and the progress of every citizen. Anything less would be a betrayal of the trust of the electorate. It's prepared to place in them. Would be a betrayal of the trust that the electorate is prepared to place in them. I don't know where you get that from. Let 2025 be the year the UNC steps into its potential as a unifying force for a fractured nation. Have they been doing that? Not likely. So let me just get this one last thing here.
So by
double. Let me get this. So if we look at the candidates of choice, the UNC's candidates of choice so far, right? In St. Joseph, where they blank Anil Roberts, they put a lawyer by the name of, is it Devish Prasad? I think his name is. In San Fernando West, to come up against Faris El-Rawi, they put a retired school principal who is also of East Indian descent. And then I saw in what is now Lopino Bonnet West, soon to be called, I think, is Aruka something, can't remember the name of it. They've selected a young East Indian dentist, I think it is. So it seems they haven't gotten they didn't get the memo, right? They haven't gotten the memo. Because while you're looking for persons of caliber to sanitize the party, to change the perception as outlined by Rodney Charles, that nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC, it is instructive to take note as they go along who it is they're selecting, right? And I know on Monday night, what is her name, boy? Anyway, let me take this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as a citizen of this country, And as a supporter and member of the PNM, I need to say this. I think it is a shame to high heavens, right, that very few people in this country have stepped out in faith, as the Catholics say, in support of Stuart Young as the Prime Minister designate of this country when Dr. Rowley chooses to leave the scene. What disqualifies him? What renders him ineligible to offer himself to the position of Prime Minister of this country? What? Is he debarred from offering himself because of his mixed ethnicity? Right? I am thankful, for instance, and somebody sent it to me a while ago, that there was a response by the PNM in the face of two very filthy, nasty attacks on Stuart Young's character and his race, in today's Express. Right? I am not surprised about Raj Maharaj's attack on him. He has attacked him many times. For incompetence, for this, for that, for the other. That is part of the court. I expect them to do that. I expect characters like Maharaj to do that. But the unkindest cut of all is when people like Selwyn Kojo, right, who up and down the place talking about NIAP and black people this and all of these training and this and that and the other. He is talking about today's papers that Dr. Rowley has sold out PNM to the rich. So Dr. Rowley sell out PNM to the rich. Selwyn Kojo, when you used to write a column in the early 2000s, and the headline was the uncivilized national crooks. That was your acronym for UNC, uncivilized national crooks. You attack them because of their inherently corrupt nature. And I live to see these same uncivilized national crooks, you, Selwyn Kojo, a black man, talking about NIAP and for the empowerment of African people, this group you purported to lead and so on and so on. Sell out. You walk the streets of Wallafield and La Hoqueta with people who thief hands down from this country with that Piaco Airport Terminal project, and who you yourself described in earlier 2000s as uncivilized national crooks. You walking with them through Wallafield and La Hoqueta, taking the thief money, I calling it that, taking the thief money to offer black people in La Hoqueta, Talparo, fridge and stove and microwave. You who describe them, the same people you're walking the streets with, you describe them in the filthiest of ways, but you, as a freed slave, you walk in the streets in condoning people who take the thief money from the airport project to buy appliances to give to black people. Now, what you were doing there is patronizing black people who you view as poor and dispossessed. They take the very thief money to give out to poor people in Wallafield and La Hoqueta for them to give the uncivilized national crooks their vote. That is what you were a part of. You were a part of that. So Galbaranting and Ferguson and those fellas, they were paupers, they were poor Indians, they were multimillionaires, but they were multimillionaires who thief from this country. And you condemn them, but you come back and walk in the streets with them. This is you, Selwyn Kojo. This is you, Selwyn Kojo. And in any case, who are you? Who are you to come and talk about Stuart Young not qualified to lead Eric Williams' Black People Party. Who says so? Who said Eric Williams' party was a black? Most of the support comes from the African community, yes. But who said that Dr. Williams envisaged the PNM as a Black People Party exclusively? Selling control, let me tell you what to do. Let me tell you what to do. And a friend sent it to me. We talked about it, and he sent a picture to me on my phone of Dr. Williams' first cabinet. You go and pull it up, Kojo, look at it, and tell me, you tell me, and come in the papers, and tell people, if you have a valid claim that Stuart Young does not qualify to be a PNM Prime Minister. You see in that first picture? Winston Mahabir from San Fernando. O'Halloran, okay, disgrace, but he ain't no African. Gerard Montano, rich people from South, mixed, half white, Kamaluddin Mohammed. And look in the back row, you will see. There's one African face there, one. That is John Donaldson Sr., one of the founders of the PNM. And look at you today. Look at you today. You know what you are practicing? You know what you're practicing, mister? That is reverse racism. Reverse racism. If you were really committed to the fact that all of us in Trinidad have a stake in this country, you would have never made such statements. Because you want to get, you see, all you all are doing is misleading Black people, leading them down the garden path to the river of no return. And I want to say to you all, and the other one who we talked about earlier, like this, David Mohammed. I want to ask you today, as a leader now, I want to ask you, David Mohammed. I know a couple of years ago you wrote a book, You wrote some book. I want to ask you, David Mohammed, if the money to publish your book came exclusively from your pocket, or if it came only from Black people. You must have got sponsorship to write your book. Tell us today that you didn't get sponsorship from any businesses in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly maybe the banks, the insurance companies, the same people who you all passed off in 1970. Now, the same people, I'm sure you went by them for sponsorship to have your book printed. And let me just finish by saying this simple question. I am ashamed, I personally, I am ashamed that it's just one or two people I have spoken with, Black people like me, who have stepped out in support of Stuart Young. If you were true PNM, you wouldn't be seeing the politics through these narrow lenses. Stuart Young is a Trinidadian. He's a Trinidadian. And David Mohammed, let me just leave you with this. And I told somebody this morning, and I've said it to other people before. All this black thing that you are talking, you and your Jack people. David Mohammed, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. When many of you go abroad to study, you're talking racial prejudice. When a lot of you all Kojo people like you and all them and Jack fellas, when you all go abroad to study, and when you're coming back home, who arm in arm with you? Who you coming holding you on your arm when you come from your studies abroad? Who is the same colonial master, white, female. So what you all do, you talk black, but your personal inclinations, and I will tell you why you all do that. I'll tell you why you all do that. Because you all feel, people like you, David Mohammed, I'm not saying it happened with you, but there are many people like you, black people like you, who talk black thing, African this, African that. You see, you all feel that when you qualify, you get tertiary education. To move upward, for upward mobility in this world, you have to marry somebody who looks like Massa wife. So you're coming proudly through PRO, and you see that as an opportunity to give you upward mobility and promotion in this life. That is what hypocrites like you all do. And you all have been chronic misleaders of black people over the years. I am saying so, with no fear of contradiction. And I think it is very much a shame to, it's a shame to, that on a day like today, right? When you have the Prime Minister designate, waiting to be anointed, sometime later on, not one black person, not one black columnist in the newspaper has said one word of commendation for Stuart Young. So he's a leper. He's a leper. He has no place in Trinidad. I am very, very disappointed. I am very, very disappointed with all those officers of the party, not one of whom has stepped out to say a word of support and commendation for Stuart Richard Young. It is a damn shame, PNM. And I feel shame for you all. I wouldn't withhold my vote. I will continue to vote because I'm a proud supporter of the PNM. But I am surprised, in fact, I'm disappointed and shocked that what we see so often in Trinidad and Tobago, and from a lot of black people in this country, and from people like David Mohammed, Cambo, and all of you all, and some in the PNM too, what we see is a very stark reminder of the sugar estate all over again. You see people who go and run to Mata and tell them what the other state is going to do. I am very sorry, but I am not seeing any support. In other words, a lot of the Africans in PNM not seeing support for PNM, you know. They're seeing support only. The vote must only come from Africans. And that is the mistake people making when they're analyzing the politics between Beckles and Stuart Young. When you hold your meeting down in Woodford Square, you wait and see. You wait and see the difference in the crowd that will turn up there. And that difference that will make a big, big difference in the outcome of the national elections of Trinidad and Tobago. I've took up enough of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Always on point. So let me just get this here. One section. Let me just I just wanted to add a reminder with respect to that article I just read from the Sunshine newspaper, and I made the point that Jack Warner to endorse that or to have that article published in his newspaper. Speaks volumes, right? But let us not forget, based on what he was saying, you all remember a man by the name of Carlton Denny, who the UNC brought on a Monday night forum or some meeting to say, one second, to say that the Prime Minister told him to fire all East Indians in the SSA when he came in. Remember that they brought a man to come on a platform and say that. And then when the Prime Minister threatened to sue their backside or to sue his backside, he come on to wrong and say, well, no, I didn't say that. But so what we heard, we didn't hear, right? But they encouraged that. You come and say, oh, no, the Prime Minister didn't tell me to do that. You know, folly. Yeah, Jen. Jenny.
Hi, afternoon, Dominic.
Hi.
Good afternoon to all those who looked on and tuned into Factors and things. It's ironic that right now we are practicing reverse discrimination. The days of HP Singh and FEM Hussain, Mohammed, and all the others, what they were preaching to people.
Jenny? Hello? Hello?
and so between Indians and Africans in this country. I'm seeing the same thing kind of happening by African intellectuals, right? And it seems like they're more scared than us. And I have to ask myself, why are they so scared of somebody who is not of African descent becoming the prime minister of this country? Because they would have studied all over the world, and wherever they went and they studied with people of different races, they didn't pull themselves apart and say, I want to be in a class with only African people, or when they were doing a group projects and all that, they bought into the whole is one love, and once you have the education, you have the ability and experience, and that we are moving away from this racism and all that. But now they want us to practice that again. So I want to ask David Mohammed, because I like to read and I don't know everything. And I was reading something, I want him to, I hope that he would listen so he could clarify for me. Who was the founder of the Nation of Islam? Was it somebody of African descent? Because from him it went to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then to the Honorable Farrakhan, right? I want to also ask them what the doctrine that they, or the spirituality that they follow. Is it that they don't believe that your racial identity is a part of biology, but rather a part of social product? Because I'm reading here, just like how the Kalsis did not have a black identity, although they were black looking. They didn't have a black identity. It's the same with the Sunni Nation of Islam. So the person of African descent there, they don't have black identities. I want to ask them if that is correct. So they don't look at biology, but rather at social product. Because if that is true, then this is a new dynamic to this whole thing. And the person whom Mr. David Mohammed, Dr. Mohammed, will speak about as African leaders or persons who should emulate. When you look at it, most of them married to white women. So that is a contradiction when you're pushing total blackness. Because the same people when they push on us as black people we should emulate, they have married white women. So I wanted to really clarify that, because it sounds to me, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I'm not certified to give a diagnosis, but I could have an opinion. That's something like cognitive dissonance. So I want to move on to cellular culture. Cellular culture to me sounds like a weak, insecure African man who just happens to have education. Because that is the same man who preaching blackness, because he's a professor in Pan-Africanism studies and all that, went to an Indian man's funeral who was a fighter for Hindus, especially in this country, who was Indian descent, and likened the work of deceased Tatmaraj to that of Martin Luther King, a man who was fighting for the rights of people of African descent through the civil rights movement. He didn't say Mahatma Gandhi, because there are so many Indian fighters who are fighting for the rights of people of Indian descent. But he didn't liken Tatmaraj to that. He likened him to Malcolm, meaning Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, he had an organization for African persons. I think Mr. Yates mentioned it. Where is that organization? What has it done for African people? It's just that the Black Caucus that Dr. Mohammed was a part of. What became of that? African people were excited, hungry for that type of institution or organization. They went in their numbers, they bought jerseys, they had all kind of curricula, all kind of stuff, lectures and all that. Where is that today? I think of that if you're pushing this love for blackness, the most you could do if you have an organization to teach us about blackness, it's supposed to be still happening or no, not defunct and nobody knows what's happening. So that's why I come back again to culture. This is one thing that I was told recently that just put here, I have no respect for Sharon Kojo, none. And the 2000s, I was season if somebody could ask them for me. He went to certain people and told them about his observation that under both Larry, who was the principal at UWI, he would have noticed that in the medical school, once your surname is that of a person of African descent, no matter how bright you are, you wasn't getting into the medical school. So a lot of our African children had to go to St. George's in Grenada to study medicine. And he was told by the person he went to, tell us how much our research will cost us for you to do. So we're not doing it allegations. We go in with information and evidence to show what you're saying is true. That was since in the early 2000s. They're still waiting on it to say. You know what I have intervened when Professor Bartholomew, I think it was, when some of his students who were working with him were complaining that they can't get into the medical school. And when he would have done his investigation, that is when this whole thing came up. But Seven Kosher was given the task since then to do the research. Say how much he wasn't going to do it for free. They were willing to pay him to do the research so that when they come to the relevant authorities, they can show this research has been done to show that this is what is happening in the medical school. The African children are not being allowed, and it's more people of Indian descent. He didn't even do that. So he can't come out and tell me not much blackness and love for blackness. I think people like him and David Mohammed, all respectfully, although I say I lost respect for Seven Kosher, I think they are afraid that when they're in the presence of people who are colored or people who are white or non-African, that they feel worthless, that they feel somehow as if their worth has been diminished. But I want to tell them that we have moved on, and I'll tell you why we have moved on. Because we are really black and we are proud. And we're not afraid to stand next to anybody of any other race and stand as an equal. So all of them try to preach fear to us, to make us feel we have to stand up next to somebody who is non-African and feel less than. We're not ascribing to that foolishness. And all the intellectual will not put that in our head. Put that in all the children's head. For them to be always be frightened and fearful. That they could sit on a television program and have the BBC Satmaraj embarrass you. You, Mr. Kocho, embarrass you. And you couldn't do nothing about it. You can stand with pride. While Satmaraj embarrass you. As a man African descent, and then going in the funeral now and saying he like me to Martin. All it's scared, all of them weak, scared, insecure Africans. We ain't like that. Our anthem class, every creed and race find an equal place. And the founding father of the People's National Movement said there's no mother India, China, Syria, Africa, Lebanon. There's mother Trinidad and Tobago. And a mother cannot discriminate against her children. Even Minister Stewart, one of the children, but not only that, even his mother, a woman of Indian descent, all he wants us to support Kamala Prasad descent and an Indian party and an Indian woman. All he wants to support them. But a man whose mother is Indian, all they don't want to support him. So that's why I say there's a level of cognitive dissonance. Because they're saying one thing, they have one reality, and then there's another reality they want to practice us. We will not be fooled, we will not be gaslighted. We will stand up and understand it's about your ability, your experience, what you can bring to the table. And you don't have to be there years and years and years and years to bring something to the table. You can come in today and come with a different view, a different idea, a different vibe, a different energy, and take the place and take the thing to a different level. We always say we want the youth involved, or too much old people. I don't PNM is just a tribal party, only African people alone voting. We show you all that is not true. But in the UNC, we know they will never put a Julian John. They will never put a Rodney Charles to lead the UNC into no election, because that is an Indian party. And anytime they do that, all the finances and all kind of things will fall out. The People's National Movement don't have that problem because that's never been an African party alone. Yes. And lot of the support, and rightly so, would have gravitated to the PNM because you know why? Bharat Saga Maharaj and all of them, they were patient Indianness and proud to be Indian. They don't want no joining with African people. So the African people went to a party where it says every creed and race find an equal place. That is why it has Indian people, Muslim people, Hindu people, people, Rasta people, those who are no religion, all are part of the People's National Movement because they feel at home. They don't feel at home in the UNC that has several reincarnations from the days of PDP to DLP. Yeah, it went straight down to SDLP. Then we had ULF, Club 88, UNC, PP, UNC. They always have to be changed like a chameleon. You know why? Because the philosophy remains the same. It's an Indian party, and they cannot exist with only Indian votes. So now and then they have to change and make you feel that they so buy into the African community, and they use the Africans to win votes, win seats, and when they get into office, they go right back to the ideology. This is an Indian party, it's about digging up the Indian race. The PNM is not like that. So me, as a constituent in Waterspen North Sentence West, a proud African woman, a proud Rasta woman, I stand in with my member of parliament, who is of Indian and Chinese descent, Minister Al Chiotion SC, and I endorse him. He don't need my endorsement because I only have one vote. And my vote will go to him. I'm not voting for a prime minister, I'm voting for a member of parliament. And when the PNM wins the election convincingly, and we have about 27 seats, when they go in the parliament, the members of parliament will do what they need to do, and we'll go forward. And when it's time for the vacancy of the political leader of the PNM party, they will utilize the constitution of the PNM, and that election is next year, and they will do what they need to do. But at the end of the day, we're going into the election to win this election with Minister Siojo, who all of them seem to afraid of us. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Why are they afraid? They're afraid because they don't even understand what is blackness. They don't understand how it is to be proud, black and proud. They don't know that. They are cowards, all they have is education. They don't have nothing else. And they're trying to bring me down into that road. We ain't going there. Them days done. And it's nothing but no one taking over or what take over nothing. There are government policies, and the policies of the PNM has always been for everybody. And if African people don't want to take part in the government policies and don't take part in the programs and all that, the PNM can be faulted for that. If you don't want to get yourself educated, you don't have to be no doctor, lawyer, and teacher. You could be a plumber, you could be a hairdresser, you could be a seamstress, nail tech, anything you want to be, it could be under the People's National Movement, because they've always provided government policies, put things in place for you to be what you want to be, what you could be. That has always been there. So who haven't taken advantage of those things and they're left out now or left behind, take some responsibility for where you are. But definitely don't put that on Minister Siojo because he's Indian and Chinese. He is a child of Mother Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you. I'll make you all have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Hello. Just going on here. Just see something here. Hello. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Dominic,
Oh Lord, leave it there.
what's going on?
I am very good.
Okay, boy. Says good evening. Dominic, you know you just have people talking longer than me, even repeating themselves, and there's no problem.
Leave it there, has what you call this?
But I ain't call for that. I just to let you that in.
All right.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
When I told you how the money ground report used to be saying they have to investigate this school teacher from Tobago. You know who started that, Dominic?
Who started?
You know who started that? Let me tell you. All they used to be praising him when he used to be sitting down with Sharon Felix on 919. All they used to be praising him when he used to be sitting down with Sharon Felix on 919. And all I used to be telling myself, look all you. Look all you. Dominic, I will leave it here.
Thank you. I have no idea who you're talking about, but okay. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, Brian.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic, I don't listen. I listen to maybe about twice in my life, maybe so much. I do listen to David Moore. He doesn't impress me. And just to say that maybe whatever he's doing, wherever it is he's doing it, well, good for him. But as far as dealing and assisting people of African descent and on the youth, I should say, I do see it, which is eaten down in the southern part. But I don't know much about him. I leave that there. But when you have people who want to talk about Africans and the diaspora and want to attempt to quote unquote educate you as though they are big educators, I want you to listen to some of these things he said according to Mr. Yates many or as much as 20 years ago, and compared to what they are saying today. You really have to sit up and listen to something. This week was a very, very good week. Gone for me. This week gone. Last week. And I will tell you what. It started off with Michelle Benjamin. And I call it dry, weak support for the symbolization of our coat of arms and our other symbols with respect to putting the pan, golden pan, on the coat of arms of Trinidad and removing the 3 ships. Started there. I think you had mentioned that, I believe, about not in your last narrative, but the one before, perhaps. And I listened to her and I just said, look, it's a total waste of time. I expected nothing less. And here Kamala Prasad says so now, indicates, are you hearing me?
Yeah, Brian.
Right, that she is now in support of the PAN being on the coat of arms. Because I will use their term because it's an election year. But last year when it was mentioned by Dr. Rowley, she wasn't very too happy about it.
At all.
But I know if Kamala Prasad had said what Dr. Rowley had said, she would have been praised for being innovative and a caring person and lauded as someone who is looking at the African fraternity and the development of PAN in Trinidad and Tobago. Right? People of African descent and this and that. It's just it's about votes. We know that. But it didn't happen like that. It was a novel idea by but it was not only novel idea by Dr. Rowley, but it was Dr. Rowley's regime that pushed it in such a way that we got 11th of August being declared PAN Day, as well as all of the other things that we would have gotten leading up to, and finally, it being brought to the Parliament as a bill to ensure that eventually, after it is completed in the Senate, that it would be proclaimed. And eventually, we will have the PAN, golden PAN, as a representation of what is all good and indigenous Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidadians and Tobagonians at all. Yes? Which is good. So when last week, Selwyn Kojo came on Marlon Hopkins' morning show on TV6 and said that he, as far as he was concerned, that Dr. Rowley did not have widespread consultation and that it PAN is only a representation, my words, of people of African descent And there's no representation for the other ethnicities in Trinidad and Tobago. That is the Indians and the Chinese and the Syrians and the Lebanese. He has a concern. It made me sit up in my bed that hour of the morning. And I should have been having a further rest. I had to sit up and listen to this so-called learned person who came and said, as far as he was concerned, that the PAN represented only the people of African descent in Trinidad. And there was no representation for the Indian and other ethnicities in this country. And that the government should find something to represent them as well, a symbol of some sort. Well, that really made me, that shocked me, to be honest, and it disturbed me greatly. Because here is a man, as the previous callers have indicated, except the last one for me, who indicated absolutely nothing. That there are people who apparently are not comfortable in their skin, are not comfortable with the texture of their hair or the color of their eyes, that they would come on a program and make such a statement. And I want to ask Selwyn Kojo, please, sir, if we have to go with what you are saying, tell us what is indigenous to Trinidad and Tobago, but that truly represent the Indian diaspora, the Chinese diaspora, the Syrian diaspora, the Portuguese diaspora, and the Lebanese diaspora. Please, sir, tell us what symbol you would like us to put alongside the PAN that is indigenous to Trinidad and Tobago, to Trinbagonians and Tobagonians et al. You tell us, sir, what we could put there to represent the other races and other ethnicities in Trinidad and Tobago. Please tell us. Because apparently you know. Because according to you, sir, the PAN only represents one race. And it doesn't represent all of Trinidad and Tobago, as Dr. Rowley expounded. And has tried his very best to demonstrate to all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago that the PAN is there for all of us. Please, sir, tell us, what will you find? Find something and please recommend it this week on Marlon Hopkins. I'm sure you will entertain you. That you will say you have an aha moment and you have a symbol or symbols that would represent the other ethnicities. If that is the way you want to go, sir, to divide this country along racial lines and make such a statement that is steel pan, indigenous to this country in the 20th century, only musical instrument invented. Tell us what other symbol you think should be used and put on our coat of arms, so please tell us. And these are the kind of people, Dominic Romaine, that will continue to say things that will divide our country. And why would they say this? Why would he come and say this? After Michel Benjamin for Selwyn Kojo to come and say that. It's one of the nastiest things I've ever heard from any individual who is given time on our television and radio stations, and as well as our print media, to expound his views that only set to divide and rule this country. And it is a crying shame that we have to listen to this individual or to read what this individual has. He is given time and space to put that in public domain. And there will be people who will go to believe what he is saying. Therein lies some of our problems. They didn't want Dr. Rowley, they wanted him to go. Dr. Rowley has put somebody who is actually qualified who are supported, I should say, someone who is aptly qualified to lead us into the next general election. And he has decided to step down and retire with his family at age 75. I had to listen to Prakash Ramadan, others saying, why should not go now because of what is going on in society and that there's a state of emergency and at this time is where you should be most present and it has weakened the government. But every single day I have to listen to people talking about this man must go. Every single day. And because he has put Georgia, who was aptly qualified, who he has seen firsthand in action, doing things that would benefit the people of Trinidad and Tobago, our children, our grandchildren, the work that he has done. I tell people like Rodal Munila who have questions to answer, asking how come 15 times he could go to Venezuela. And what did he talk about and who he talked to? And nobody questioning Rodal Munila and has he given his statement. I have to listen to people talking about Paria. People should be locked up in Paria because $1.4 million which he got back 75% missing, and somebody should be locked up. When Rodal Munila gave out money for buildings that up to now KPMG, the accounting firm, can't find a brick, a piece of mortar, a sack of cement. Nothing at all. $789 million just disappeared, given out. And not to know. But they're talking about $1.4 million that has already returned. But they want somebody locked up. How come nobody are asking for Rodal Munila to be locked up? How come? You talk about the $10 million that went missing. We hear that money went all over the world, including the Middle East. Up to now, we don't know exactly where it is, according to you. And according to what you all read. That money disappeared. But 789, she quoted from $1 billion. 180 million from NCB. And we don't know where that money has gone. We don't know. Just disappeared, just paid out. $500 million just before the general election of 2015. Was borrowed from banks on demand loans to be paid back in 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. And given out to certain people. Nothing was done, allegedly. And up to now, we can't get responses or answers for that. Nobody is asking the questions about that. What about all that money? It's okay? But Russian Paria and Wade Mark want to know who will get locked up. 3/4 of the money has been returned and it was a cyber crime. And I've seen all over the world. Dominic, let me tell you this, you always talk about how many buildings are vacant right now because of what Dr. Rowley has done since 2015. Let me talk about down south now, the money for a short minute. And perhaps the President and First Lady of Pleasantville could assist me with this. Because up to just the other day, because I haven't been there in about a year, you have to go up a street called Leoto Street to get your death certificate, if you want to get your marriage certificate, and amongst other things, a renting building on Leoto Street in San Fernando, just off Cipero Street. And if you want to get through early, you have to reach by 5 o'clock in the morning. And by the time you reach 5 o'clock in the morning, the line stretches into the street. You understand? So before the sun comes up, long before the sun comes up, you are outside there waiting. When the great Patrick Manning built that building in Chancery Lane to house all of the government buildings in San Fernando, when the UNC won office in 2010, Kamala Prasad said, elevator when they were inhibited and they could not find a way, so that it will be kept very, very quiet. Today, that building is still sparsely occupied. One of the biggest buildings in Trinidad and Tobago. If you pass there on Chan, every time you pass on Chan, you can't miss it. And we are still renting government offices in San Fernando. And we're still lining up today. I'm certain you have listeners from San Fernando and callers from San Fernando who can verify whether I am right or wrong. And still you have to line up still today, 5 o'clock in the morning, if you want to go and get a death certificate, or your marriage certificate, or a birth certificate. Today, still. So the people who were in office between 2010 and 2015 did absolutely nothing for the people of the city of San Fernando. That's why today she calls it a borough. Absolutely nothing. But she could have assisted. So when you keep asking who is doing more for the 1% and making the rich richer, guess who it is? You are quite correct. It's happening in South too. And I want everybody listening who from San Fernando, when every time you pass on Independence Avenue, do you know, Dominic, when they had the deadline for the pay property tax last year, you had to go to, those in South had to go to the Border Inland Revenue building. It's a building on Supero Street. Towards Supero Street. Dominic, it was madness. It was crazy. And the government at the time said, you know what, we can't allow everybody to come in that one building because it was creating severe traffic jam. People were complaining because there was nowhere really to park. You understand? The underground parking facility was full and overcrowded. Street cars were backing up. So what they did? They opened the warden's office and they used the warden's office on Independence Avenue for people to go, but people didn't really see. Most people didn't hear, because when I went Independence Avenue, right, there were a few people there. I spent maybe about an hour because of the process. But where the Board of Inland Revenue is even today, where it could have been simply on the Churchill Lane, where it could have gotten through in quick time before you get through in Port of Spain, it still remains where it is today. And that is all thanks to the Tabla Prasad Visesa and her team of idiots and kleptocrats, because all they were studying at the time was the teeth. They didn't care about what was happening in the city, the great city of San Fernando. And nobody didn't tell them anything. So I want, when Stuart Young SC takes over, that he would fix this. Because that big building on Churchill Lane has a lot of space, and it should be used for what it was really meant for. And that is to house all of the government offices in San Fernando in one place, and make it easier for us to not have to line up 5 o'clock in the morning to go and get a death certificate, a birth certificate, or a marriage certificate, amongst other things. I'll be eternally grateful if we can do that for we people in San Fernando. Because them people who from San Fernando didn't think that we were worthy of not having to go with jacket, it's in the cold, and having to stand up 5 o'clock in the morning on Leoto Street in San Fernando to get those documents. It's a crying shame. And that's going on. Look at how long now. How long that building on Churchill Lane has been built. Nothing for me. We need help down here too. You understand? And that is why it is important for us to vote in a particular manner. And all the naysayers who are against Stuart Young, who is aptly qualified to be where he is today in finance, banking, and industrial relations, as well as being an attorney at law SC, senior counsel, aptly qualified, not self-appointed senior counsel, and who has walked the streets not only of Tunapuna, as I mentioned the other day, but also of San Fernando and even Hoover South, that is represented by the UNC. He's even walked there as well. Just recently, we must ensure that we don't look at ethnicity. We look at the ability of person to be competent to do the job. And certain Dr. Rowley is not wrong. And I support what Dr. Rowley has done. And we must all do that and unify our party to ensure that victory is ours. And we complete the mission this year, whenever the election is called. Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, Eric.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon to the listeners, the callers, and viewers of another. Good contribution at Ayid. Right? Dominic, now, you see, this country, and as you rightfully said last live you had, that these people who up in arms now, who correlate and making a certain noise, suffering from didn't get. So you know when you ain't get, you'll cuss and you'll make noise. And I will continuously say, the people who make any more certain noise are upset because they see Minister Stuart Richard Young as, SC, as the epiphany of Dr. Rowley, because remember he was the minister was under Dr. Rowley. So when they see that arise now, all the delegators have a problem right now. You understand? So it goes to show, by the hook or the crook, I will continuously support Minister Young during this time and going into the general election, and going forward and pushing this country forward, because Minister Young is going to bridge the gap of the racial discrimination that continuously plague this party that most people claim that is a black party. I don't know since when PNM become an African-based party. I'm a bit lost. So I need some people in layman terms to explain to me. Define the term black party for me, and I will be contented, because from my understanding that the PNM is an all-inclusive party, all sorts of race, color, creed, and class, that's free to join the party. So this black party mantra that these so-called wannabes, like the David Mohammed and them and the Selvin Kobo. Yes, Brian, I say the Selvin Kobo, because that will be even like a blasted Kobo. Only lap up all UNC carcasses. I want to lift up the UNC. I wonder if people can recall when Satmaraj would have passed, what was his statement in Satmaraj's funeral? Oh, what? Satmaraj is the what? Is the Martin Luther King. This blasted Kobo. Yeah, and them can't get no respect from me, because you know why? They don't respect themselves and their own ethnicity, so they cannot get no respect from me. Because you, as a black man who had all these organizations, what you all did for the black caucus in this country today, what you all did for the black caucus in this country today, and David Mohammed and all of them who jumping out now and saying, oh, that the PNM is 1%, and the PNM this, and the PNM that, and where were your voices when Kamla Prasad administration between 2010 and 2015, they lock up over 9,000 African fellas in the East-West corridor and in the so-called state of emergency because they deem it as crime hotspot. Where was your voices then? Don't come now and try to make it look as if we're so concerned about African people now in the party, because Dr. Lee would have anointed Minister Young as the successor to be Prime Minister until internal call next year. Don't come now and try to play or they pretending or little black people. But all the time for the last 15 years, where were you all when we needed you all the most? And now when Kamala and them, they put African people to their knees in this country the last 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. Where was all your voices then? You're coming now to talk about hogwash and telling me how the PNM is a sellout party. How the hell the PNM can be a sellout party? I want David Mohammed and I want Selwyn Kobo to tell the people in this country what happened to the Black caucus in this country. Has it elevated African people? No. Right? So don't come and try to pretend to people right now that are so interested about the welfare of the party. The party is doing good going forward into the, look, next week Friday, or this Friday I should say, the 24th of January, will be 69 years PNM in existence, the 24th of January 1956, that the late great Dr. Eric Eustace Williams would have birthed this party called People's National Movement. And Friday coming here will make it 69 years. It's PNM built this country to where it is today. And all of them who feel that is all kind of negativity at the PNM, that the People's National Movement built this country from since colonialism to independence to republicanism to first world status. And then when we take Carnival and put them there, they send the country back 50 years back. So right now, we have to play catch up now, going forward. Right? But you're coming to talk to me and telling me, Gene Giles, that here the PNM is a sellout party. How the PNM can be a sellout party if people like Selwyn Kobo and them, right, have no interest in their own race? Or like, give me a break. I'm going to Clive Dutton, give me a ball-headed chance because all I have no care whatsoever. All I want is to get handouts or gimme and uplift the UNC that don't care nothing about African people. If the UNC is so integrity and they have so much standards and professionalism, why did the UNC elect Jolene John as the political leader of that party? They would not do it. Because Kamla rightly said, the only concierge children are the PNM. That's what she said. But in the same concierge children, you want to come and get the vote from this end, and we have these clowns and them like defecate as diaper on our radio station every evening, talking about foolishness that making no sense whatsoever. And it's all well and good. Because you know why? They're promoting what the UNC wants. Right, to cost the PNM and try to invade and involve and influence the African votes to vote for PNM, for UNC. So you know why? We vexed because Dr. Roddy ain't on our own to support the PNM party. They put one that who will support the 1%. That's what they're saying. Dr. Roddy was there 15 years. Right? Or they cost demand all how. They cost demand, but is deceased mother, is deceased father, or is a child of rape coming forward, the black man, the other. They say all kind of manner and ill will against Dr. Rowley the last 15 years, the opposition and the Prime Minister, right? But today now, that he decides that he's going to ride to the sunset and anoint Minister Young as the successor of the Prime Ministership. Everybody, not everybody, the ones who suffering didn't get are the loudest mouth right now. They're the loudest mouth and quarreling and crying. Because Dr. Roddy put one of their own, and Dr. Roddy, Dr. Roddy is churchy on this. And I am categorically staying again. Me and my family supporting Stuart Richard Young, FC, not SCAMP like the old Paria Zamwati. Right? He's a senior counsel by law. He did law, he fought law, and he's a lawyer by profession. Not no fly by night. And still like the old Paria Zamwati who dishes them silk and others. Right? So with that being said and done, let me just take 1 minute again. I'm ready to jump into this fun thing that this so-called Buntaya Benjamin and Maruga, what to come on, what to feel that all well and good because all you want to support PAN now because there's an election here and we have to support it to get the black African vote. So we must support everything coming forward. And listen to me before I go, you see independence coming here. You see, I will bet all you $100,000 come August 31st this year. The UNC opposition is going to find itself in the independence parade. You know why? It's an election year, so they want to look good. They want to get the population and the electorate a mind and hear what we have a country, we have unity, we have harmony. That is what they want to do. So come August 31st, people are putting all their record in 8 months' time. All you're going to see the UNC opposition in Independence Day parade in the Queen's Park Savannah, because why? It is an election year and they want to look good in the eyes of the electorate. And come August 1st, they want to play the having Emancipation Day celebration to fool the Africans to feel that they are unity and unified and they endorsing Africanness. So we're waiting to see. You understand? Because all of this is a sort of facade. They want to portray, because they want to get the African votes so they could win the resource further. But you see them 5 national seats, the Qatar's book. Every one of them, the Qatar's book. Wayne Sturge should be the last to talk about people, because I got to understand is alleged who is the lawyer that was championing the cause for criminals in this country. I say someone that Dominic, good program, Dr. and are listening.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Dom, darling, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
I hope it's well with you.
All is well.
What do we want as a people? Chewin Young is 18 years old. He was born here. You have Dr. Rory has to go. Do you want a pig, a dog, a cat, a flea? What do you want? Please lead the nation. It's a black party, right? The foundation remains the same. The paint has changed. There are new doors, new windows. It is the same building. Why are you so confused and hateful and empty and racist? What do you want? Don't take chill and gaslight. Stop, sit, listen, and think. Is what PNM bringing you into bringing you take or PNM? Do you want gold jewelry or bling bling? Leather shoes or plastic bags on a foot rubber slippers? What do you want to wear? Yes, a friend of mine died, right? When I funeral. The church was packed there. Did I saw yesterday? It atmosphere of love. And white in the Chinese. And you know, it's a funeral. Go quiet funeral. We had a good time. We laugh, we dance, we celebrate. But you there, and we miss the person. But I saw love. But it was Jiran Prasad. And she was selfish. She was selfish, she was caring for love, she was grateful, she was everything under the sun. You know why? Because she loved. You want to go for racism? Where you it's a real nation, right? We don't have a real place. You are thinking, prove that. You racism, prove that. That is not a real place. All blood red. There's no curry blood, or pillar blood, or swine blood. All blood red. Now, I want to send you again another voice note.
Okay.
Like it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chance. Hello. Hello.
Dominic,
Yes, sir.
good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Very special greetings to you. Very special greetings to you, sir. Yeah. I know that you've had a nice long stay, and I want to say to you, congratulations. I know that your podcast has reached close to 600, I think, I'm seeing, somewhere around there at one time.
Yes.
That is excellent. Good work. Very special congratulations to you, Eric, and Jenny, for that work that you continue to do.
Indeed.
Good work going forward, and we have to intensify all that work we are doing. Commendations for that. And I have listened to Jenny, Mr. Yates, Brian, Eric, and the callers, and that's my trend as well. But because they have exhausted so much of what I want to say, I want to swing my attention to the Honorable Stuart Young. I want to keep on that track, because it is important what they did to talk to the people of Trinidad and Tobago about David Mohammed, Ralph Farage, and Telvin Kojo. Just let me say one little thing about Telvin Kojo I want to endorse fully with Mr. Yates. He called the UNC uncivilized national crooks. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
What has happened since then, Kojo? That you have now decided to go to bed, political bed with the crooks. What does that say about your character? What does that say? I remember I said that just one time. I knew who your secretary was, my very good friend, and had a form to join me up. What has happened? That organization could never be an organization of crooks. But you're in the political bed with crooks. After spending over 4 decades in the United States, is it that you're now coming back to Trinidad to look for Kamla for work? That is shameless. I understand that you took your chair and you put it in a place in a UNC meeting so Kamla could see you and hear you out and call you, Prof, look here, and you raise up your hand. After 40-something years in the United States being a professor, I'm not challenging that, but I'm challenging what has happened to your character, what has happened to your philosophy. What has happened? Now you want to come back after all that decade looking for work. But I want to tell you, I'm going to work it because it is Stuart Young on the ground and Stuart Young moving along. They don't get a work. And the Ralph Farage, I'm reminded people of Ralph Farage said it. When Farage screamed from the red vine to the yellow vine, you remember what he said? He said, I feel comfortable here now. This is a real place. You could talk to a man like that. That man has a bright yellow pen. And in fact, he's yellow from the head to toe. And that's one little thing I want to say about Dr. David Mohammed. I think Jenny made the point. When we examined, he called us one person, referred to him as black conscious. That fellow is David Rani. He's the Secretary of State of the United Kingdom. You know, I checked it out. You know his wife? Nicole Green, a pure white woman. Yeah. You feel we were going to read that, David? We're going to research his stuff. That's the stuff we are made of, sir. David Rani, Secretary of State for the United Kingdom. His wife, Nicole Green, a British white woman. Yeah? And you're talking about consciousness. So now let me answer that. Thank you all, David Collins. Let me go to Stuart Young, Honorable Stuart Young, very quickly. As an educator for a significant part of my life, what caught my attention is the same thing that caught my attention with the founding father of the nation, Dr. Williams. When Dr. Williams, in his on the Independence Day, said, you carry a future in the school bag. You're talking to the children. And it's the same thing. Our Prime Minister to be, who's following the steps of the illustrious transformational leader, Dr. Kitroli. He's focusing on the children. You know what he said? He said he's going to focus on the children through looking at the curriculum so that they develop a different mindset. A mindset that is consistent with Trinidad and Tobago. So in order to learn values, they know our history, they will know that Professor Ken Julian played an important role in this country. That is where the focus is. And in education, we say you start from the known to the unknown. You have to let the children know about that. Nobody steals band, nobody commits so. And that's why it's always be relevant. The curriculum must be relevant. We know about other people, yes. But the first important thing is to understand certain things like values and certain things about your country. I gave him a thumbs up for that. And then he went on to talk about the youth. That's his first speech, He went on to talk about the youth. And here's what he said about the youth. Yes, academics is important, but he is going to make sure that the academics does not fall under the other competencies, the other areas, abilities that people have. They have ability in sport, they have ability in culture, they have ability in other areas, and skills like plumbing, like electricity, and he is going to focus on that as well. While academics is important, there are a number of other competencies, things that people can do well and become rich and wealthy with it. He's going to expose them to that. And finally, the most important point I saw, he's going to work on the unification of the country. My people, those are the same things. If you read the books of Dr. Williams, you will see where his focus was. Africans and Indians unite. Unification of the people. He spoke about the children and the young people. And that is where our Prime Minister to be has anchored himself. He is standing on the shoulders of the founding father of the nation. And I tip my hat off to him. Because that form, education, as Paria says, is the ticket for social development and growth wherever you are. And there is where his focus is. And I give him real kudos for that. And he, in my view, is really a suitable person. And when I close off by talking about what has happened in energy, you all know, everybody knows what happened in energy. Before, we used to look at energy as just a word, but now energy is alive for us. We know how important it is. Who did that? Who created that information gel for all of us to understand how energy is important to our lifestyles, important to how we pay our bills, important to how money get its pension and all of that. And his work is directed towards all of that. So I think he's adequately qualified and appropriate for the Prime Minister when our illustrious leader, Dr. Keith Rowley, hands the baton over to him. Thank you very much for the time, Dominic. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. And I see the new coat of arms is out, so it looks pretty good. So it has been unveiled. Yeah. So kudos again to the government. Interesting. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Dominic. Well, finally able to get onto your program, Dominic. Your program is very popular now. You know, congratulations on yourself. But you know, Dominic, I can't understand the mentality of these people, not particularly certain people who deem themselves PNM, or I should say, Afrocentric PNM. What do we have with children? When children was in a certain area, of course, they would have, for example, people of African descent. So what is the problem, Dominic? And this is a way for the PNM to make up for what people saying, the wasted opportunity that after the death of William, that there will be somebody to succeed the PNM of East Indian descent. So what's the problem, Dominic? You tell me now, what is the big problem? You know, the hypocrisy of this country, they're not in PNM business about who going up and doing Martin West, right? Who going up in the seat of the San Morris, right? But then studying what's going on in the big bacchanal in the UNC camp, or whatever Russian Paria going back up as the MP for his seat, or going over Mr. Rudolph Muriel or Michelle Benjamin. They have asked themselves who the UNC going to face those people?
Nope.
No, but it's studying PNM business. And I want to congratulate Ms. Jenny and I guess I want to say it's true. Certain African people, when you jump up, there's a who marry somebody else of a certain color. And it doesn't regulate, you know, the regulation in other parts of the country, certain areas in the United States. I don't think of many black celebrities, many black male celebrities who marry people of a certain hue. And I could give you one example. You know Kanye West, right? And who he married to?
Yep.
They're playing talking about that. Right? And I could say Kanye West is Afrocentric too. But look who he married to. Right? And I think these UNC supporters need to focus on our own party because right now there's a lot of background confusion. If Michelle Benjamin will mark up as the candidate from Aurora Table, is Rudolph Muriel will mark up in a seat? Is Russian Paria safe? Is he going to mark up? Is Khadija Ahmed safe? Is she going to mark up for the Empress for the election? I want to go to Joseph Dominic. Carnival will matter? Or is he in that seat?
Oh, well, remember they selected Devesh Prasad or something, so.
Who's he?
Some attorney.
What kind of question now? And those people in Sandy Grande who made the biggest result in electing the UNC-led Sandy Grande Corporation. I wonder how they who candidate for that area now, for Sandy Grande. Captain Underpants.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they had to take it and snoop it, right? Take the vote UN Corporation. I get to have no problem. Well, they try with Miss Green, Nabella Green. That didn't come to fruition. So let's see what they're going to do with this candidate now.
Yep.
Stop studying PN and business.
Carry that.
We have a structure, we have a machinery, and a lot of people going up as potential candidates. Up to now, what you say, the UNC have about what, 8? They screen 8 people?
Well, they screen more, but you have people waiting to find out.
Okay.
You too, sir. Yeah, look how long they screen Khadija. I mean, and she's still waiting. How long now? Hello? Hello?
And they scream Lakram Buru too, for Faizabad?
Yes.
Dr. Lakram Buru? Easy man? You seen anything? Why are they hiding them so? So I have 2 things I just very briefly I would like you to think about it. I haven't spoken on any of these as yet. But this is also for the listening public, somebody. Yesterday on our television we saw a group of persons professing to want to link up, to join up, to fight the elections. NTA, the COP, and the WHO. I want you all to look at that picture again and tell me what is common to all of those people in that picture. What is common, Dominic? Many, if not all of them, have served under Kamala Prasad successor one time or another in the parliament. Hamel Smith was what? President of the Senate. Prakash Amara was what? When the COP party was dismissed out of her and fired, he remained there in the parliament. Not so. Amongst many others who were there. Let's look at them closely. See all the things they're fighting against the UNC. They are not. They are just a branch of that kleptocratic organization. So don't be fooled to tell all yourself that, hey boy, look at a new party, a new set of people going up. Perhaps we could vote for them. Because they are all part and parcel of a division, just like the Tobago Party under Fali, a division of the UNC. A word to the wise. And finally, I would like all of you all who have children written on examination results to be uploaded from UE. And look who is leading and saying up last week again on Marlon Hopkins' program that they can't accept the 2% because they can't afford to buy food. And remember, when UNC were having their crime talk, that political, that leader, that union leader of Wigan, she was one of the spokespersons. And they always claim to be brighter than them ministers. But they can't afford to buy food at the salaries that they're working for right now. They didn't make noise in 2014, 2015. No. They didn't make noise. They spoke about these things during the last 9 years. But today, they have decided in an election year to withhold the marks of those students who need the marks in order to move forward with their future. So tell me, what is throwing the youth of the country? Yeah? Because the UV lecturers are so poorly paid that they can't eat. Really? Again, a word to the wise. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Just two quick things to touch on. One, I want to tell Julie John something, right? Monday night, the last Monday night forum, she spoke about, she want to tell young brother about the wickedest Ben over, and the greatest Ben over is not his song or whatever. The greatest Ben over, according to her, is what took place at Balize House for General Council and so on, that the General Council members and so on Ben over for Keith Rowley and stuff. I want to tell Julie, the greatest Ben over, ma'am, is in the UNC, starting with you accepting the fact that you could never be the political leader of the UNC because the rank and file of the UNC will not have it. You bend over and accept the fact that the highest you could probably aspire to is deputy political leader. But leadership of the UNC will always be beyond your reach, right? And you bend over and accept that. What's the greatest bend over? The whole of the UNC. You all have a political leader who is probably the biggest loser, has had the most electoral losses of any political leader in this country, certainly, and perhaps even the region, and I might even dare to say the world. Because to have lost 2 general elections and is still the political leader of that party is a rarity in the extreme. But she gave earlier something to hold and tell her, well, you know, we won the popular vote. No, you didn't win the popular vote in the general election. You won the popular vote in the last local government election. But the PNM would have gotten the majority of districts, right? Eventually with the by-election and so on. Okay? And all 309,000 of you who voted for them in 2020, well, you bend over and take that. Yeah? She refuses to go, refuses to step down. All you bend over and take that. That is the greatest bend over. Okay? What she says goes in that party. All you talking anytime. I told you all about, I just went on her Facebook page and make a comment. And my comment was, I hope when your term ends in June as political leader, that you will allow democracy to prevail in the UNC. They blocked me. That's democracy, and you don't know if I'm a UNC supporter. She don't know that. They don't know that. You don't know. But you block me. So it's like, okay. Once you go against the political leader, they don't care if you're a UNC supporter. I am not, but they don't know that. And I'm saying when I went through that, the majority of the comments under that post were negative. We're calling on her to step aside. So I'll probably block all those people too. And I'm sure quite a lot of them were UNC supporters. But you want to talk about democracy in the PNM? And you're not even allowing your supporters to express their views even on social media? If these views are in opposition to your political leader, who will be what, 73 years in April, I think it is? 73 years old and still want to hold on, still hoping that she could be prime minister for another 5 years. And at which point in time she'll be what, 78? And you think at 78 she's going to step down? So long as she believes that she still has the stamina and the strength to continue, she's going to continue. And who's going to challenge her? But all those people around her, you know what? They're going to say nothing because they owe their political life to her. And make no mistake, she's going to drag out this process of screening as close as possible to the election. So if anybody figure that they want to oppose, they would be concerned that they might find themselves being replaced. As you saw with Anel Roberts, who thought that he was going to be the candidate for St. Joseph, and what's happened? After you put out all that resources, money, last 2 years or so, you're campaigning in St. Joseph, you're meeting the people, hearing their needs, talking to them, and so on, you come and get them the greatest bend over. They come and replace you with some just come named Devish, Passad, or whatever the heck your name is, right? And you take that just so, you bend over and take that just so, no grease, Anil, and then come in to talk nonsense about is a team effort, and sometimes you have to be on the bench and all of that. But we know in secret you probably cost Kamla from now until the cows come home. But you all good at pretending, and now you're all up in PNM business and rowdy this and rowdy that and small pin and all of that. That can help you. It didn't help you. Poor Gianti. Gianti thought she would have been the one, she would have got the nod for San Fernando West. All of them, you know, who went in April on the 14th or the 12th of April and submit their documents, the nomination form, and pay their $2,000. And then you had a just come retired school principal who should be spending his time with his grandkids, but he want to come and get a kobo sweat. Meanwhile, on the PNM side, the PNM is attracting young people, the likes of Karim Marcel. I don't even think Karim is 30 years as yet, and he's going to be most likely the next member of parliament for Laventille West. And you have people the likes of Jeremy Ennis, Dr. Jeremy Ennis, who has thrown his hat in the ring to replace Adrian Leonson in Laventille East Mova, another young man, right? And then you have Hans Devines, who's vying for Dr. Rowley's seat. So we are seeing the young people, the UNC, they want to bring us at a, like Wayne Sturge, Mr. Principal. But that's what they could get. It's like the police service. Yeah, well, I said the challenge with accomplishing the target of the 1,000 officers, we're just not getting the quality of people that we need, that we want. Right? People can't pass the basic exam, they can't pass the psychometric test, they ain't passing the polygraph test. Why is it that these are the persons who are gravitating towards the police service? That is exactly what we do not need at this time. We do not need such persons looking to join the service who just want to have the power to be able to slap up people because they just don't like your head, or you have a neighbor or some friend that you have a beef with and you want to be able to go and hit him a clout too hard, cuff in the belly, and he can't do nothing. Because the minute he hits you, you lock him up for assault. That's what we do not need. So when they come to tell you, oh, Rowley said he was going to get 1,000 officers and they even do 200. We understand, we were told why that has been so. The issue is, you're not getting the quality of people. So I see somebody, I think, I can't remember if it was news source suggesting that you need to increase the salaries of the police officers and so on and whatnot. And that way you will get better people coming in. Okay. But academia alone isn't it? Because they have people who have plenty of certificates and qualifications and stuff and should not be in the police service. Should not be in the police service. Because some of them have issues otherwise. Right? Some of them are narcissists, the home they're beating their wife, they're beating their girlfriend and all of that. And then when they get through with the first stage and they put up the pictures in the newspaper, if anybody know anything about these people, please come forward. And then they go and threaten the girl and tell her, if you go and say anything, you know what will happen to you. She hush her mouth. And these persons end up in the police service. I know a couple of them who should not be there. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. The second point I want to make is the issue of something David Mohammed mentioned, which again is something that they continue to use to claim that the PNM is anti-African. And these two clowns on that radio station, I've heard them speak about this before, and it's the issue of the Afri-Exim Bank coming to Trinidad. Right? We know that is a big bank from Africa that wants to come to the Caribbean region, and I think they want to start with about 1.5 billion US in capital to provide capital for businesses and so on. And it's not limited to persons of African descent. And all but two Caribbean countries, CARICOM countries, have signed. They are Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. Right? And there has been a concerted effort to use that to paint Dr. Rowley as being anti-African, and he doesn't want African people to have access to capital to be able to establish businesses and so on. And if they want the money, they have to go to the 1% owned bank. Rubbish. Dr. Rowley was asked this question at a press conference, right? But I think Google asked him that, and he made the point. He said the issue is that the Afri-Exim Bank, he is not opposed to them, because he said he would have spoken to the head of the bank already. They had discussions and the like. His issue, government's issue, is that the Afri-Exim Bank is asking that their employees, whether they are local or international, do not pay income tax. Now, I'm sure the government would have no issue with the international part, but the local employees, they're saying they mustn't pay income tax as well. And the Prime Minister made the point that if we grant that concession to the Afri-Exim Bank, it means that every other international entity that is operating in Trinidad can then come and say, we want the same concession. a lot of these international entities that exist in Trinidad have a lot of local employees. Some of them making big money. I had a discussion with somebody recently from one of these international institutions, and she's making quite a bit of money, quite a bit. And she was concerned about the amount of taxes that she's paying, income taxes, and she wanted to find a way to be able to minimize that. And Prime Minister is making it point, we can't give you that concession. So while David Mohammed wants the government to back down and to give in, why can't the Afri-Exim Bank give in? Because you're making a lot of money. Why can't you simply give in on that concession and say, well, okay, we'll stick to just our foreign employees, not the locals? Why you can't do that? But it's always the government must bend. It is always the government that must, because we need the money and we need the investments and so on. But come on. You all need to understand, and they need to put themselves in the Prime Minister's shoes, in the government shoes, and they figure running a government is the easiest thing to do, you know. But give them the opportunity inside. They get the first day some of them get inside there, they want to pull out their hair when they realize the bureaucracies and so on that take place. Look at what the OPR, right? The Procurement Regulator, Office of the Procurement Regulator, which replaced Central Tenders Board. UNC was telling us how the government watered down the legislation, and they watered down the legislation, and they have those in the echo chamber who repeating that nonsense, right? Doing live and writing articles in the newspaper talking about how the government watered down the procurement legislation to facilitate the 1% friends. But here it is that we have the procurement regulator appeared before a parliamentary committee, and she is telling them that the regulations, the laws as is, it is too cumbersome, it is too convoluted, and it is hampering the ease of doing business, right? Hampering the ease of doing business. That's what she said. And adjustments need to be made. So I'm saying if the law is watered down and you have the procurement regulator is saying that the law as is, as watered down as it is, she didn't use those words, but the UNC said watered down. And she is telling you it is hampering the ease of doing business, and is making it difficult for people to register. It is making it difficult for people, for private companies to be able to tender for government contracts and the like. And that in effect is having an impact on the ability of the public service sector and government entities to be able to carry out their functions effectively, because they don't have the companies on the registry that they could approach. So now you have the Office of the Procurement Regulator putting out advertisements in the newspaper, calling for people in different sectors to come forward and register, get your business registered on the registry, because they have a shortage of these people. Because so many people say they're not worth it to go through all of that headache and stuff. Me going through that, forget that. That's what they're saying. So the procurement regulator now is having to beg people, businesses literally beg them, spend taxpayers' money to put out ads on the print media and the newspaper and on social media and so on, begging businesses to come and register so that you would be able to provide services to the government. Because why? Some of these government entities are complaining when they need service providers, when they go on the registry, they have a shortage. And the people who are qualified to do the work are not registered on the registry, so you can't do nothing with them. And where are the people to talk about that? All you who play in echo chamber for the UNC and talking about the legislation watered down and it watered down. All these lawyers and stuff who was talking that nonsense. Where are you today? What have you to say to the procurement regulator, who is saying she's even getting pushback from public servants as well, refusing to cooperate with the OPR? But we want to blame the government, and it's the government and the ease of doing business is because the government and the government. But here, when you have the procurement regulator is telling you, we have issues even with public servants who refuse to cooperate with us. And so she's now making recommendations for amendments to the law to make it a little easier for businesses. So instead of the procurement regulator serving as to be doing the pre-qualification, let that be done by the relevant state entities who are looking for the contractors, and all they will serve as is the registry. Right? So let me just take this final call here. I'm already over time. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Dominic. Good afternoon. I'm a bit puzzled by David Mohammed.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that the Exim Bank, that African bank, coming Trinidad to lend money to black people exclusively.
No.
And I think that is absolute nonsense. And then he turned around and said, only people who were able to access the bank was a 1% company that was able to get a loan from them. So the two things are conflicting, you know.
Yes.
So I think it's totally wrong there.
Correct.
You have a good day, man.
You too. And exactly, Kola. And that's the thing. You're giving conflicting information and confusing people, again, to make it seem as if the government trying to hold down and stifle persons of African descent. And as he said in his thing, that the government has failed persons of African descent providing resources, but the government has resources in place. They have things in place. They have programs that they pay in young people to come. They can't go and force persons of African descent to participate. As if so you could lead the horse to water, you can't force them to drink. Since when Mr. Manning had done the Laventil Technical Institute by the old Rumbun there, and you have persons who prefer to run across the highway and risk their lives to go and run down truck and jump on the back of garbage truck to see what they could scavenge to run back home and go and sell, rather than you go and you take up the opportunities that are being offered there to improve your lot, right? All of the programs that are being offered by the Ministry of Youth Development. Republic Bank, they're talking about what the 1% own bank and all of that, and they want to help black people. But Republic Bank established a loan program for small and micro enterprises where they're lending you up to $100,000 to start your business. And they're paying for you to get training from the business experts, right? Which is one of the prerequisites for you to get the loan. So we're not just going to give you money to run your business. We want to help you. And if it is you still need support after that, they're giving you that support too. The same bank that they're saying that only giving loans to the East Indians and the 1% and the local whites, they created a program to help, and the criteria doesn't say if Afro-Trinidadians need not apply. They're actually showing you testimonials of persons of African descent who have accessed the loan facility, who have taken up the training opportunity, and the businesses are thriving. It is there. The bank has the data to show, and they could show you people giving testimonials. But when we want to make it seem as if as the banks in Trinidad don't want to lend black people no money, and the Afri-Exim Bank coming here, Harvey Boris, who has been championing this cause on his program on I-95, has been making the point that some of the people who most want the banks to come here, his friends, are persons of East Indian descent, who come to him and tell him, Harvey, we have business thing that we want to start up, and Rowley and them need to let the bank come here so we could get the loans. That's what Harvey said, not me. Harvey Boris says that. His East Indian friends telling him that. So this thing to make it seem as if it is exclusively for persons of African descent is incorrect. And even when you look, I think the minimum they're lending is something like 5 million US or something like that, or some figure that 500,000 or 5 million US or something is the minimum that they would be lending, right? So I mean, come on now, man. You're advocating for that, but stop giving people half the story, because Jamaica hasn't signed on either. So stop making it seem as if it's the Rowley administration doing this because they don't like black. So what's the excuse? What is Andrew Holness' excuse? The Prime Minister of Jamaica. Andrew Holness is not a white man. He hasn't signed. So what is his reason for not signing? But when it is somebody, and that's the thing that upsets me, that somebody who is so learned and who is accustomed and who is known for doing deep research would come and say these things when it is that it wouldn't take him long to just go and do the research. The information is there, and provide the people with the correct information. Rather than you're spinning this narrative, and you have minions out there who want to run with, but because if David Mohammed said it, then it must be true, and run with that, and then gaslighting persons of African descent to believe that the government stifling black business and black enterprise, when nothing could be further from the truth. When it is that the government itself has set aside money to give people, persons of African descent, money to start, not just them, but to start your business, and again, giving them the training too. But where was David Mohammed to run to Fitzgerald Hines' defense when 2 or 3 years ago, when it is that he represented Dr. Rowley and gave the feature address at the Emancipation procession, and he mentioned the fact that the government had created a program to provide lands for persons to engage in agriculture. And when they looked at the names of the persons, the majority of persons who applied to the program, that there was a shortage of persons of African descent. And the UNC took Heinz to task talking about the government practicing discrimination, and is that how they distributing state resources through discrimination, and who they know who's African and all of that. Where was David Mohammed to come to Fitzgerald Heinz defense to say we need that? That we need to provide more for persons of African descent. And nothing wrong. Where are they? When it is these things happen, when it is the government runs programs that the UNC decide to run to the courthouse and the Equal Opportunity Commission to say is discrimination, where are they to come and stand in the gap with the government and say, no, that is not the case? Never around. But always quick to jump out now and accuse the government of being pro 1% and pro local white, to use his term, and pro East Indian, but anti-African. When nothing could be further from the truth. He wouldn't talk about the fact, as I always mentioned to you all, that the project, the Red House Restoration Project, where the budget was $41 million, right? And when people like Philip Alexander was maligning the project and talking about, well, they're spending all this set of money just to change to put a coat of paint on the and change a few windows and change the roof, and that is all they do and nothing else. But nothing could be further from the truth, because anybody who is accustomed being in the Parliament building would have known that. But $441 million was allocated for that project, and at least $125 million, at least $125 million of that 441 went into the pockets of 5 African-owned businesses. The largest single contract on that, which was electrical, some $66 million, went to an African-owned business. But they wouldn't talk about that. And I'm pretty certain the government didn't come and say, hey, no, the people bid and they got through. So at least $125 million went back into black-owned businesses. And I'm sure there's more than that. But you wouldn't talk about that. No, the government don't like the thing, and they don't like black business, and they shut down 10,000 black businesses and so on. Come on now, man. Stop encouraging slackness. Stop being an enabler. Tell the people and them to do the right thing, because you can't be looking at the people who doing the right thing, who filing their annual returns and paying the tax and whatever else it is that they're doing that is required, the statutory requirements, doing the right thing, and the business is flourishing. And when it is that you have those who are not doing it, because I'm not saying no, they have African people, African-owned businesses that following the regulations, doing the correct thing, and their businesses are thriving. But those who aren't doing it, either because it might be an unconscious thing, they're not aware, they just thought that all they had to do was to just go and register the business, and they weren't following up on these things that they're not sure. Educate them, but stop being an enabler for those who deliberately not doing it. And then you come in to defend them with nonsense to say the government don't like African businesses and they're trying to stifle African enterprise, and look what they're doing, and they're shutting down African-owned businesses. Because I'm pretty sure when they were going through, they didn't say, when you look at the business name, you can't tell if it's an African-owned business or an East Indian-owned business. I don't think they have time to go through this. Call this business and find out what is the ethnicity of the owner from a place, so we will know if to strike them off or if to give them extra time. I'm pretty sure they didn't do that. And plenty of the businesses that would have been deregistered, I'm sure, are owned by persons of other ethnicities other than Africans. So stop trying to peddle that kind of foolishness and gaslight person, because you're not doing them any favors. Why are you all doing that? You're so hell-bent on making it seem that the government is so, because what? I mean, come on, if you're really genuinely interested in the promotion of black enterprise, you will do the right thing and encourage the people to do the correct thing, instead of what it is that you're doing and spreading false information when you know it has nothing to do with taxes, and that these people had ample opportunity, 2 years of an amnesty, to get their house in order, and didn't do it. And did not do it. To be saying that the government did not advertise, when I heard the advertisement on the radio, when I am seeing it on social media and in the newspapers, ample opportunity. Every time they extend the deadline, the government has gone out of its way to advertise and encourage people to take advantage of the amnesty. And even if you say that the issue of taxes, the amnesty for taxes is still on until the end of this month. So even if they owe back taxes and the penalty and interest, they could avoid that by coming in and going to the BIR and paying some money and probably work out some sort of payment plan with them. Because let us not forget, you have one man who owned Movietown, who owned the government $90-something million in taxes, and another one who owned radio stations, who owned the government $30-something million in taxes. So they too, right? They too. So come on now, man. Folks, thank you all so much for joining me as always. Always a pleasure to share my thoughts with you. And And God's willing, we will chat again on Tuesday. So enjoy the rest of your. I see Winston says, may every creed and race find an equal place. That is all the government has been trying to do, right? The opportunities are there. Come and partake. While they would love to have the persons of African descent partake in a more greater way, they're not going to come and say, hey, this is only for persons of African descent, or hey, no, they're not doing that. It is left up to you. We create the opportunities. Oh gosh, well, you ain't tired here. African people ain't doing nothing. And all African people got to do is to provide labor and be consumers. The man who wants to join up with the UNC talking that nonsense, you're fed up hearing that. You're tired hearing that. Oh gosh, boy. Stop listening to these people and go and do your own research. Already depriving yourselves of opportunities to write your own paycheck because you're listening to the wrong people. That's all the problem. Listening to the wrong people who have ulterior motives, who trying to get back into office and trying to gaslight you all so that you would not listen. You would not go and seek the information because you're hearing them, and especially when it's people who have established a presence, persons who are trusted and respected, talking that janjat, and they figure, well, if he say, well, it must be correct. I don't need to go and look for nothing else. And you go in now on every nook and cranny that you could to repeat what he said when what he says is incorrect. Better than that. Natalie Superbill says the government dependency syndrome David pushing is crippling our community. Absolutely. That is absolutely what they're doing. I mean, I just don't understand it. Right? But more people need to do all that because the UNC is gaining headway with respect to that, any misinformation, and more needs to be done to ensure the right information is out there. And I think what now on that station is just Google fighting the fight because somebody told me Sharon hasn't been there for a while. I don't know. I don't listen to the station anymore. But I mean, come on now. On 95.5 you have who? Darian, John and John. That's it. We need to do better. We're in an election year, too much propaganda over there, and we have too many anti-PNM persons and entities to be fighting off. And it's not enough of us. Right? So we're depending on all of you all to do what you need to do. And the same way they having the conversations in the bar and on the street corner and all these different places in the house when they're linemen in the backyard and on the block, we need to get into there too and make a difference. Right? Even if sometimes we hear people talking in the bank or somewhere and you're grinding like a sugar mill and you just want to pull them out with a fist. They can't do that. Because you know they're talking garbage, they're talking rubbish, but where would some people just don't want to hear. But we continue to fight the good fight. All right. Anybody's celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. Have a great one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as I said, God's willing, we will chat again on Donna says, oh gosh, I know finishing the kitchen. Robert Lewis says she's dragging it out to give the PNM less time to investigate the characters to become members of the parliament. So true, Robert. Right? Because when you find out about them and it's too close to nomination day, what you will do. And that's like in 2020, she will say, I stand by all of my nominees. But you all heard Gary Aboud earlier on, right? Talking about the crooks that the UNC offering you, David Lee. If it is that you bypass Giant T, even though but if you can't find somebody to replace David Lee, somebody of stature, something wrong, and you're willing to put him back despite the fact that he has charges against his name and he's out on bail, but you're still giving him an opportunity, something wrong with him. We know something wrong with him. The member of parliament for Couva North, you love to talk about clear your name and come back. He has to clear his name. But if it is you're willing to bypass that and put him back there, you can't find nobody to replace him, something wrong with it. Again, the member for Carnival Central who was fired from not one, but it's Carnival Central yet, but 2 public utility companies, and one of those matters is still ongoing. If he has not cleared his name and you can't find nobody to replace him, something wrong with Talia. But of course, we know that the faithful for that party will still give their votes to these people. But Had it been on the shoe had been on the other foot, would I be hearing a different, yeah, look at who the PNM want to put up. Man on charges, and yet still that is who they're offering, but you all will accept it in your party, right? Because if the leader says so, it's so. But the right-thinking citizens of this country, we're not tolerating that nonsense. Because if you could engage in criminal activity outside of government, Lord only knows what you would do if you get a chance to get into government. And we're not willing to give you the chance for us to find out what would happen, right? And also to hear what Gary Aboud mentioned just now about the EMBD judgment. The same judgment that when it came out in 2020, the lawyers for these guys begged the judge not to release the judgment until after the election. Always remember to ask yourself that. Why didn't they want that judgment to be published on the judiciary website for all and sundry to read before the election? Trying to withhold information, because when you read that, and especially from page 37, the transcripts of the text messages between Munilal and these different people, with Munilal telling people prepare a check and bring it for him so he could go and deliver it to the contractor. These are the things they didn't want you to see and read prior to the election, because they knew it would have cost them. And it still cost them anyway, even though you didn't see it. But it's there. Go and read the judgment. Just Google it and see. T.N. Ramnath and whoever and whatnot, that judgment, read it from page 37 and see the role that Munilal played. One of the supporters, just a couple days ago, commented on some post CNC3 put out, and I responded to the individual. Right, they were talking about Las Alturas and Dr. Rowley, and I reminded them that the People's Partnership conducted a commission of inquiry into that project, and no culpability was found on the part of the MP, of the minister, Dr. Rowley. So the response to me was, so based on my effing logic, why are we blaming Arnel Roberts for live sport, and why are we blaming Rudal Munilal for EMBD? And when it is that I responded with the link to the judgment for EMBD, and I told them which page to read from, because I know they some of them suffering from ADHD, so they could only read so much. So I gave them the exact page to read from. I'm still waiting on a response. Still waiting. I'm not surprised, because when they read and they read these things, it have no response to give other than to keep quiet. But I ain't gonna change nothing, because, well, now they no longer can say, well, all right, we don't want the black man. The black man gone. Do you have a East Indian Chinese mixed? Where's your excuse now? Word to the wise is sufficient. So then it says, look how I'm no longer listening to the station if that ever happens. They don't read or listen to proper information. So true. And we're only going to be getting more of that as time progresses. Right? So Eric says, I got to understand the ground report looking to take up Google Spot, Word on the Ground, or Aisha Wells. Wow. Ooh. Boy, well, desperate times call for desperate measures. Again, and the station needs the money, but I'll tell them, don't call me. Do not call me. I'm not interested. All right? Yeah, I happy where I am. I good. Folks, we will chat again on Tuesday. Right? Just remember, tomorrow, I don't know how many of you will be tuning into the inauguration. At 12 noon, Donald John Trump will become the 47th president of the United States, and whatever that brings with it. Yeah, so yeah, we can chat about that on Tuesday. Have a good one. Angela says, forget about Trump deportation. Watch Trudeau's return home so they can have access to TikTok. Yeah, TikTok went dark yesterday, but I read something which says Trump gave certain assurances that when he comes in, that the platforms that would facilitate it on behalf of TikTok would not be sanctioned or whatever it is. So who knows, maybe in a couple of days it would be back on and he will take credit for it. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. We'll chat on Tuesday.